Your jaw tightens before you even know why. A text lights the screen, 3 words that spike your pulse. Your shoulders inch toward your ears, your breath becomes thin and high, and the room seems to tilt, just a couple degrees, but enough to make your thoughts tumble. The present narrows to a tunnel, the mistake, the meeting, the message you haven't answered. Somewhere behind your ribs, heat blooms, and your stomach flutters with that familiar hollow drop. You scan for exit signs, snack, scroll, say something you'll regret, but the body is already sprinting while your mind stumbles to keep up. Sound familiar? Here's the difference that changes everything. In the next 60 seconds, you will take back your biology with the 4-4-6 reset and learn a second move that makes calm repeatable. You'll feel the floor again, see more options, and choose who you are under pressure. That choice will build a mind you can trust. Your body is not the enemy. It's your early warning system, loud and sometimes clumsy but loyal. When your heart climbs and your breath skitters across the surface, it's your amygdala pulling the fire alarm. Blood leaves your planning brain and rushes to muscles and habits. That's not weakness, that's wiring. You don't fix wiring with pep talks. You work with it, like a climber studying holds, like a musician counting bars in. That's where the 4-4-6 reset lives. A simple, precise breath pattern that steals oxygen and attention back from the alarm and hands them to your prefrontal cortex. 4 counts in through the nose, 4 counts hold, 6 counts out through the mouth. The exhale longer than the inhale. This is the lever. That longer exhale signals safety, shifts the vagus nerve from alert toward recovery, and gives you the precious half-second in which you can pick your next thought instead of wearing the first one that shouts. Try it now. Sit a little taller without rigidity, as if a string lifts the crown of your head. Soften your belly by 5%. Place the tip of your tongue behind your top front teeth. Inhale through your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your mouth, purse your lips slightly as if cooling soup, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good, again. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Feel how the chest wants to crane, then releases. Notice the temperature of the air at your nostrils, cool in, warm out. On the third round, let your shoulders drop with gravity on the exhale. There you are. The room hasn't changed, but your edges have softened and your focus has widened. That widening is not mystical, it's mechanical. Your reticular activating system, the brain's filter, takes its cues from your state. When your state slows, the filter widens. More possibilities seep in. Now pair the breath with a second move. Anchor, name, choose, the ANC protocol. Anchor is your body's cue to arrive. Name is your mind's cue to own what's happening without becoming it. Choose is your identity's cue to act from the person you're training to be. Used together with the 4-4-6 reset, this becomes a 1-minute ritual that turns reactivity into leadership, whether you're at a kitchen sink, a steering wheel, or a conference table. Breathe 4-4-6 for 3 rounds. Anchor by touching something physical, a table edge, your wrist, your collarbone, and silently say, here. Name the inner weather out loud or in your head with the phrase, I'm noticing, as in I'm noticing a racing heart and the thought that I'm behind. Then choose the smallest wise action that aligns with who you're becoming. 1 sentence, 1 question, 1 next step. This is not grandstanding, it's steering. In a fluorescent conference room, Leo used to lose himself. A senior designer with a clear eye and a hot streak, he would present a concept and watch it get chopped by committee. The first critique sliced too deep. He'd feel a compression at the base of his skull, then a bright heat behind his eyes. His voice would flatten or spike, and he'd swing, either withdrawing into brittle silence or launching into a defensive monologue. Projects suffered, so did trust. After a particularly rough meeting, his manager slid a sticky note across the table. Breath buys time, time buys choice. That night Leo listened to his pulse for the first time like you would listen to surf. The next morning he walked into the review with a private plan. When the first critique landed, he felt his body flare. He placed his thumb to the knuckle of his index finger under the table anchor and ran 3-4-4-6 breaths. He named it silently. I'm noticing heat in my face and the urge to defend. Then he chose one question. What's the one outcome you must protect here? The room shifted. From that hinge point, the team improved the work. Afterward, Leo sat in his car, palms on the wheel, and noticed something new, not triumph, but steadiness. Pause for a body check. Scan from the crown of your head to your toes. Notice the weight of your tongue, the position of your jaw. Is your brow knitted? Unravel it with a slow exhale. Notice the skin at the back of your neck. Imagine cool air brushing it. Drop your shoulder blades toward your back pockets. Let your ribs expand sideways as you inhale, not just up. Feel the chair holding you, the floor steady under your feet. It's as if the world clicks one notch into place. Anchor, name the weather, choose. You're training your nervous system like a musician trains timing. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes automatic. And automatic is what meets you when the world pushes. This is not about becoming a statue. It's about becoming a conductor. A conductor doesn't silence the orchestra, they time it. Your emotions carry information. Anxiety says something matters. Anger says a boundary is crossed. Sadness says you've lost something real. But raw signals without skillful timing can flood a scene and blur your choices. The 4-4-6 reset doesn't erase emotion. It right-sizes it so you can hear the melody again. When you breathe 4, hold 4, exhale 6, you reduce the amplitude of the signal just enough to read it. Then anchor, name, choose translates the signal into action. Thank the anxiety for the heads up, then set a micro plan. Thank the anger for care, then ask for clarity. Thank the sadness for its honesty, then tend to what's missing. You're not numbing, you're negotiating with yourself in good faith. Here's your first micro practice, the minute that changes your day. Set a cue you can't miss. The moment you touch a doorknob, the moment your phone lights up, the moment the kettle clicks off. Use that cue to run the 4-4-6 reset 3 times. On the third exhale, anchor by pressing your thumb to your wrist and whispering, here, name whatever is present. I'm noticing a tight chest and a thought about failing. Then choose the next smallest wise action. Send the one-sentence reply, drink a glass of water, open the document, ask one clarifying question. That's it. You're not proving anything to anyone. You're teaching your nervous system that you can steer. Feel your breath again. Count the inhale like you are drawing cool smoke through a reed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold like you're balancing a full cup. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale like you fog a window longer than feels natural. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the slight pressure at the base of your throat easing. Notice your belly yielding to your hands if you place them there. If your mind sprints ahead, bring it back with the softest label, thinking. You're not scolding, you're shepherding. The mind will wander. The practice is coming back kindly. Every return is a rep. Every rep thickens the pathway of calm. A friend once asked you why you needed a technique. Can't you just relax? If you could, you would. But relax is a vague memo. The body respects specificity. 4-4-6 is specific. Anchor, name, choose is specific. The specificity gives your attention a groove to slide into, like a stylus finding vinyl. If you practice now when the stakes are low, the kettle, the inbox, the traffic light, you'll have it when the stakes are loud. This is the secret athletes, performers, and crisis medics share. Their calm is not gifted, it's drilled. The drill calls the state. The state calls the skill. The skill calls the identity. Identity is the quiet engine underneath all of this. You've probably tried white-knuckle willpower, trying to wrestle yourself into a new behavior by declaring rules you don't believe. This is different. After you anchor a name, your choose is not random. It's tethered to the person you're practicing becoming. You can say it as a sentence. I'm the kind of person who pauses, asks, and proceeds. Or, I'm the kind of person who stays kind and clear under pressure. In the act of saying this, while your physiology is settling wires the statement deeper, the brain notices what it says while state shifts happen and tags it as credible. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The wave passes, the watcher remains. Let's build one more layer, the 30-step walk. When you feel the surge and the room shrinks, stand up if you can and walk 30 slow steps, counting each exhale to 6. With each step, let your foot feel the floor roll from heel to ball to toe. With each exhale, let your ribs settle. At step 10, anchor by touching the doorway as you pass and silently say, "Here." At step 20, name the weather. At step 30, choose one action and do it immediately. Send the text, write the opening line, fill the glass, turn off the tab that's shouting your name. You just paired breath with movement, which multiplies the settling effect. You also taught your mind that you can move through a state rather than get stuck in it. That lesson compounds. Return to your seat. Feel the temperature of the air across your cheeks. Hear the faintest sound in the room, maybe a distant hum, a ticking, a rhythm you usually ignore. Let your eyes soften their focus and widen their field, like twilight arriving. In that widening, try the ANC protocol on a memory that usually stings. Bring it to mind just enough to feel a flicker, not to flood. Breathe 4-4-6 thrice. Anchor with a fingertip at your wrist. Name the weather. I'm noticing a tight throat and the thought, I should have known better. Now choose the smallest wise action toward repair. Draft one apology sentence, schedule a 5-minute cleanup task, or decide to ask for help. Feel the dignity of that choice, small and solid as a coin in your palm. Your brain loves evidence. After today, you'll start collecting micro-evidence that you can be steady. Create a note labeled resets. Each time you run the 4-4-6 reset, write 2 lines, the cue that triggered you and the one small action you chose after. Slack ping asked for priority instead of guessing. Traffic jam right arrow played favorite song, texted ETA when parked. Critical email 3 breaths, drafted, received, aligning options. This is not performative. It's honest data. After a week, you'll read back and see more than events. You'll see a new identity congealing between lines. The note is a mirror. You may worry that calm means you'll lose your edge. It won't. Calm cuts chatter, not conviction. In fact, clarity often sharpens the very edges that matter: values, boundaries, and craft. The singer on stage before the downbeat, the surgeon before the incision, the parent before the hard talk. They're not empty, they're precisely full. The 4-4-6 reset is a tuning fork, not a sedation. You'll still feel, you'll just stop being dragged by the loudest feeling in the room. Another story. On a rainy Tuesday, Myra stared at a flashing cursor while the storm ticked softly against the window. A deadline loomed, a comment from a colleague gnawed at her ribs. Are you sure you can handle this scope? Her chest compressed and her mouth went dry. Old tapes rolled. You're behind, you're not built for this, you'll freeze at the meeting. She stood, walked to the sink and ran cool water over her wrists. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Again, again. On the 3rd exhale, she touched her collarbone. Here. I'm noticing a clamped jaw and the thought that I'll choke. Choosing the smallest wise action, she wrote a 1-sentence outline of the next slide. Then another. 10 minutes later, she had the skeleton. The comment still existed, but it no longer owned the room. She did. That night, she wrote in her resets note and slept like a person who has made a quiet promise and kept it. Take one more breath with me. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Imagine your inner world as a room with open windows. Breeze moves through, curtains billow and fall. You don't chase the curtains, you feel the air. You stand, not braced, but balanced. From here, decisions become cleaner. From here, words come out kind and precise. From here, you can be strong without being hard, soft without being erased. The 446 reset is the door into that room. Anchor, name, choose is how you furnish it. You'll add more tools in time, but you only need this one today, and you've already used it. The practice is underway. This is not about never feeling anxious again. It's about never being cornered by anxiety without a way out. This is not about never feeling anger. It's about letting anger's message in without letting it drive your hands. This is not about performance. It's about presence. Presence is trainable. Every gentle return is a vote. Keep voting. Keep returning. Keep noticing that you are the awareness, not the emotion. The orchestra still plays. You hold the baton. You wake to a soft gray that makes the room feel like it's holding its breath. Before your feet touch the floor, the mind is already building headlines. Late, behind, not enough. This is where most days tilt. Not with a catastrophe, but with 1,000 small tugs that turn your attention into confetti. Today you're going to meet that drift at the door. The breath is your first key. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. And now you'll add a clock and a compass. The clock is a biology fact wrapped in a simple practice. The surge of an emotion peaks and begins to fade within 90 seconds if you don't feed it stories. The compass is where you point your attention during those 90 seconds. Together, they form the 90-second weather rule. You'll feel the weather, but you won't mistaken it for the climate. You'll watch the surf without running into the waves with your phone and your shoes still on. This is what the science is saying in plain language. When the amygdala dumps a signal, hormones and neurochemicals flood your system like a flare. Your heart rate shifts, your muscles prime, your prefrontal cortex dims to conserve energy. If you add rumination, why me, always me, this means I'm failing, you refill the flare. If you don't add fuel, the body completes a loop and the signal drops. Your job is to accompany the loop without narrating a disaster. That's the 90-second weather rule. Pair it with the 446 reset and you have a stroll across the deck while the squall passes, not a shipwreck. During those 90 seconds, you will not fix your life. You will walk yourself through a corridor with 3 lamps that stay lit no matter the weather, breath, body, and a neutral description. Here's how you'll do it when the next surge hits. Breathe 446 for 3 slow rounds and silently start a count to 90 like you're timing tea. At the same time, you'll use a lens called the 3-track awareness. Track 1 is raw sensation. Pressure at the sternum, heat in the cheeks, buzzing at the temples. Track 2 is behavior impulse. Urge to argue, urge to hide, urge to fix everything right now. Track 3 is storyline. The sentences the mind throws up on the inner screen. You don't fight any of the tracks. You label them like passing trains, pressure, urge to send, I'm falling behind. You are the conductor calling out arrivals, not the passenger being dragged by the coupler. By the time you tick to 90, the storm that was absolute a minute ago is measurable. When something is measurable, you can modulate it. You'll see this more clearly with a scene. In the back row of a lecture hall, soft light hitting polished wood, you watch a student, call him Aaron, freeze during a Q&A. The professor asks a question. Aaron knows the answer, but a flash flood hits. Heat in his neck, hands damp, mouth dry as paper. The thought arrives dressed as truth. If I speak and stumble, they'll see I don't belong. In the past, he let the thought steer the wheel. He stared at his notebook until the moment passed, then carried the small shame home like a stone in his pocket. Last week, he learned the 90-second weather rule and the 3-track awareness, and he decided to test them. He uncaps his pen and draws a tiny dot on the margin where only he can see it, his private signal. He runs 3-4-4-6 breaths, feeling the cooler air at his nostrils and the warm stream leaving. He says in his head, track 1, heat in the neck, hands damp. Track 2, urge to lower my gaze. Track 3, the thought I don't belong. He starts a quiet count, 27, 28. When he reaches 68, the heat is still there, but the urge has loosened its grip by a notch. The professor repeats the question. At 83, he lifts his hand. The sentence lands, not perfect, not theatrical, but clear. A girl near the aisle nods. On the walk home, the stone is gone. Check your own body now. There's weight where your body meets the chair. There's a subtle buzz somewhere, temples, throat, or belly. The skin of your forearms knows the air in the room. Is it cool or heavy, dry or humid? Let 3-4-4-6 cycles smooth the edges. Your eyes soften, the peripheral world returns, widening the lens you look through. You notice how the tongue rests against your teeth. You unclench it and the lower back follows. These are not small details. They are your access points. When you pay them attention while the wave moves through, your prefrontal cortex flickers back on sooner. The reticular activating system recalibrates and stops highlighting only threats. This isn't a lecture, it's a lever. You pull it with your breath and your naming, and it lifts your day. Now you'll introduce a second framework that marries attention to action, the window widen protocol. When you're triggered, your options collapse to 2 or 3 predictable moves. The protocol is a 4-step loop you can run in under a minute to expand your choices. Step 1, pause on the breath, your 4-4-6 anchor. Step 2, name the weather with the 3-track words, body, urge, storyline. Step 3, widen by scanning for one more option than you usually notice. If you typically defend or withdraw, you add ask a question. If you typically delay or deny, you add do the smallest next piece. Step 4, pick the smallest wise action, SWA, something you can do in under 2 minutes that supports the person you're becoming. This isn't theory, it's a handrail in a stairwell when the lights flicker. Let it ride along with you in a daily moment that often derails you, the inbox ping that feels like a summons. The icon glows, your chest tightens, your fingers hover. Before your old reflex takes the keyboard, you run the loop. Breathe 4-4-6, feel the waistband loosen a hair on the exhale. Name the weather, buzz in the forearms, urge to check everything, story that I'll miss something important. Widen, besides, open immediately and avoid what exists. You spot, set a 5-minute batch timer, triage anything urgent, start 2 items to handle at noon. Pick the SWA, start the 5-minute timer and triage. You just turned noise into sequence. You didn't become a different person. You became more yourself, because the self you want to be shows up under pressure, not just on quiet mornings. A small memory surfaces in your own life. The fight in the kitchen over something that wasn't really about dishes. The room smelled like citrus and heat from the oven. You felt the flush rise, heard your voice sharpen to a blade. In the past, that moment would have stretched into an hour of brittle words and door frames absorbing the tension. Last weekend, you tried something else. You let your palm meet the cool countertop, anchor, and you ran 3-4-4-6 breaths looking at the texture of the granite like it could teach you patience. You spoke the 3-track awareness in a voice soft enough to hear yourself. My chest is tight. I want to push my point. The thought is you never listen. 90 seconds later, it wasn't gone, but the volume had dropped. You asked one window-widen question. What's the actual stuck point here? The conversation shifted from accusation to clarity. You clean the counter more slowly than necessary afterward, not to avoid, but because the water on your hands felt like an after lesson, cool and honest, saying, "This is how you return." If your mind protests, "This is too simple to work," remember that simplicity is not the same as weakness. Sprint coaches teach 1 cue per run. Musicians drill 1 measure. You'll drill 1 minute. Your nervous system respects repetition more than novelty. Start where you stand. Pick 3 daily anchors you already do. Wait for a kettle, touch a doorknob, sit before a screen. Each time, run the 90-second weather rule at least once that day. Don't hunt for drama. Use ordinary unease, the small dread before a task, the flick of irritation at a delay. Breathe 4-4-6 3 times, label the 3 tracks, count to 90 as if protecting a candle from wind, then choose an SWA. If you forget halfway, begin again. Beginning again is not failure, it's the core skill. There's a reason the exhale is longer. On the longer out breath, your vagus nerve signals the parasympathetic system to take the wheel. Blood flow inches back toward the frontal lobes. The muscles release micro-grips you weren't aware of. Your eyes change focus and depth perception expands. This cascade doesn't ask for belief, it asks for cooperation. You cooperate by counting and feeling. Feel your ribs open like shutters on the inhale. Feel them settle like shutters closing at dusk on the exhale. Notice the temperature of your hands shift a ½ degree warmer as your vessels dilate. If you don't feel it at first, don't dramatize. The body often whispers before it speaks. Keep breathing. The whisper will turn to a voice you can understand. Another story, this one at work. Joanna ran customer escalations. She was good because she cared, and because she cared, she got hooked. A harsh email could steal her morning. The words would jitter through her hands into her replies, and she'd write too much, promise too wide, carry the thread home. After a training, she taped a card to her monitor. Breathe, weather, window, SWA. The next storm arrived on a Thursday at 8:14 a.m., a subject line like a siren. The first sentence carried heat. She felt it travel up her throat. She slid her chair back 2 inches. 4-4-6 3 times. Track 1, pulse in the neck. Track 2, urge to over-explain. Track 3, story that her worth was on trial. She watched the minute pass like a lifeguard watches waves. At 60, her shoulders dropped a centimeter. At 90, she ran window widen. Besides, write an apology novel and put it off. What existed? Call the client for context. Ask the one question that clarifies ownership. Propose the smallest fix. SWA, draft 3 lines and ask, what outcome do you most need by end of day? The reply she sent was 2 sentences long. The rest of the day stayed hers. Let's practice now so your body knows before your brain debates. Close your eyes unless you're moving. Picture a small hourglass on the table in front of you, sand fine as flour. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale through your mouth for 6. When the exhale ends, flip the hourglass in your mind and begin a clean count to 90. As you count, sweep the 3-track awareness with a kind attention. Sensation first, like a camera panning from the collarbones to the belly. Impulse next, catching the tiny forward lean, the twitch of fingers toward a device, the set of the jaw before a point is made. Story last, sentences rising like headlines you can read without obeying. Keep the count. If it breaks, simply restart at 1 like a bell ringing again. At 90, open your eyes and let the room come back in layers, color, shape, sound. Choose one small action you will do when you stand. A glass of water, a single message, a stretch. Do it. Let the completion mark your nervous system with a dot of confidence. You may feel a quiet grief when you see how many moments you've lost to rumination. That grief is clean. Let it wash you without turning into self-attack. The 90-second where the rule doesn't judge yesterday, it rescues today. When the wave rises, you're not late. You're right on time. Meeting it with breath and naming is not indulgent. It's how you get yourself back so you can do the work. Say the thing, drive the car, hold the hand. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The emotion is a weather system. You are the sky it passes through. There's a dorsal between knowing this and living it. To cross it, build a ritual before one predictable stress. If mornings feel scratchy, create the morning reset. You stand, feet hip width, hands on ribs, 3, 4, 4, 6 breaths. A 90-second count watching the 3 tracks. 1 window widen SWA to open the day, 2 lines in a notebook, 1 glass of water, 1 sentence sent. If evenings catch you with frayed edges, make the threshold reset at your front door. Hand to the frame, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Count to 90 while you notice the impulse to bring work into the room. Name the story that says you must be on always. Widen to an option. Put the phone in a bowl, change t-shirts, greet with the question, what felt good today? Pick the SWA and step in. You didn't change your life in a flourish. You crossed a threshold with intention, and intention is how identity settles into bone. You will at times forget everything. You'll snap or scroll or swallow your voice. When that happens, the mind will come bearing a club labeled shame. Set it down. Run the reset anyway, even late. Breathe. Name the 3 tracks of the aftermath. The tightness, the urge to hide, the sentence about who you are. Count to 90 and then choose a repair SWA, a short apology, a reset of your plan, a glass of water, and a walk to the mailbox. Do it kindly. Your nervous system learns as much from how you return as from how you perform. The conductor who drops the baton doesn't leave the stage. They pick it up, nod once to the orchestra, and begin again. Listen to the room you're in right now. There's a machine hum somewhere, faint and steady. There's air passing the curve of your ear. There may be a distant car, a bird, a pipe in the wall. Let these sounds come to you without strain. Let your gaze soften so that your peripheral vision widens by a few degrees. This physiological shift tells the ancient parts of your brain that you're not in immediate danger. Otherwise, you'd be tunnel-eyed and deaf to nuance. Pair that with 1 slow 4-4-6 breath and feel the floor hold your feet. These are breadcrumbs leading you back to yourself, and you can follow them in any room on earth. Before we close this session, plant a sentence in your day that you can reach for when the storm blinds your windows. It goes like this. This is 90 seconds of weather. I'll breathe and watch it pass. Say it now under your breath. Notice the way your shoulders respond to the tone, not just the words. The sentence is not magic. It's a handle you can grab in the dark. The more often you grab it while breathing, the more your body recognizes the shape of calm and returns to it like a familiar door. Tomorrow will bring its own weather. Some hours will be postcard blue, others streaked with gray. You don't need a guarantee, you need a practice. The 4-4-6 reset gives you the switch. The 90-second weather rule gives you the fuse box. The 3-track awareness gives you the labels. The window widen protocol gives you the handrail. You bring the willingness. And that willingness is already here, proven by the breath you just took and the minute you just met with attention. As this part ends, feel the quiet thrum in your chest, not danger, but aliveness, the same signal that carried you through every hard thing to this very moment. You can trust yourself to meet the next wave. You've calmed the surge and widened the window. Now you'll change the channel the surge used to broadcast on. Your inner narrator loves to pretend it's a documentary filmmaker, capturing reality as it is. It is. It's a screenwriter with a favorite genre, catastrophe. The brain's negativity bias once kept you alive on dark roads. Today it can keep you small in bright rooms. You won't try to bully that narrator into silence. You'll give it direction. The tool is the three-perspective reframe, a swift way to move from the one loud angle to a fuller picture. You'll pair it with a simple phrase that loosens the glue of identification. I'm having the thought that, together, these form your story editing room. You catch the first draft, you breathe 446, and you offer two alternate cuts that are still honest. Your reticular activating system takes its cue from the story you attend to. Attend to a truer story, and your brain begins to highlight the evidence that supports it. Start with the phrase, "It matters more than it seems." I'm having the thought that I'm blowing it is different from I'm blowing it. You haven't denied the content. You've shifted the frame from identity to experience. The thought becomes whether, not a tattoo. When you add the three-perspective reframe, you move through three camera angles. First, the protective angle, which gives the anxious mind a microphone to express its concern without running the meeting. Second, the neutral plausible angle, which states a factual, boring interpretation that could also be true. Third, the growth angle, which looks for the lesson or the smallest chance to become who you mean to be. You're not forcing optimism. You're balancing the courtroom so the prefrontal cortex can weigh evidence like a fair judge rather than like a frightened witness. Try it in your mouth now. Think of a moment this week when your chest tightened and the story leaped to a verdict. Bring it up softly like you'd lift a fragile bowl. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper, I'm having the thought that I never get this right. The protective angle says, this matters to me and I'm afraid of losing face. The neutral plausible angle says, I might be early in the learning curve and today was a rough rep. The growth angle says, if I slow down and run the protocol, I can salvage the day and improve the next attempt by one element. Feel what happens 2 ribs below your heart as the angles open. The exhale lengthens on its own when the threat level drops by just 1 notch. In a small studio that smells like coffee and paper, Kim worked as a copywriter. A client call went sideways. She offered a headline, a long pause answered her, then a polite, not sure it lands. Heat spiked up her neck. The old channel switched on, you're not quick enough. She caught it with the phrase, I'm having the thought that I'm slow. Protective, I care about excellence and the silence startled me. Neutral, they might be unsure about tone, not talent. Growth, ask one question to locate the mismatch, then propose 2 quick alternates. She ran a quiet 446 to keep her voice warm and said, can you tell me the one feeling you want your audience to have when they read the first line? The client answered without edge. The call turned. After, she walked to the window and pressed her palms to the cool glass. Sensation, breath, story, aligned. Pause here and notice your feet. Curl your toes inside your shoes or on the floor and release them. Feel the small stretch across the top of your foot, the way your heel settles heavier on the exhale. Let your tongue rest like a lazy cat in the bottom of your mouth. Inhale through your nose, smooth and slow, hold lightly, not a clamp, just a pause, and let the air leave longer than it entered. If a thought tries to seize the steering wheel, label it with the phrase, and set it aside like a magazine you can read later. You are not throwing your thoughts out, you are sorting the mail. There's a second lever to rig inside your story editing room, and it talks directly to your brain's filter, the RAS bookmark. Your reticular activating system decides what gets through based on what it thinks you care about. You can prime it with a simple, repeated sentence that meets 3 criteria: present tense, actionable, identity-based. I'm the kind of person who is the doorway. Choose a sentence that matches the skill you're practicing. I'm the kind of person who breathes, names, and chooses. Or I'm the kind of person who asks one clarifying question before reacting. Whisper it after your 446 reset and once after your 3 perspective reframe. This is not affirmation theater. It's instruction to the filter. Over days, you'll notice how your eyes start to catch opportunities to breathe a name, how your ears catch the moment a question would untangle a knot. One evening, a friend texted you a clipped message that felt colder than usual. Your stomach dipped. The default script spun up. They're upset with me. You stood in the kitchen where the tile kept the days cool. You placed your hand on the counter edge, its bevel smooth under your fingers. 446 once, twice. I'm having the thought that I messed up. Protective angle. Connection matters to me and silence feels like danger. Neutral angle. They may be distracted or tired. Texts flatten tone. Growth angle. I can ask explicitly if everything's okay. You sent one line, saw your message, anything I should know. The reply came back with 3 laughing emojis and a story about a long commute and a dead phone battery. The kitchen light seemed a hair warmer. You noticed it because the RAS bookmark you'd been whispering all week. I'm the kind of person who checks before assuming, nudged your attention toward a question instead of a judgment. Build the room deeper with the STOP switch, a classic you'll modernize. See the surge, take a breath, observe the 3 tracks, proceed with the SWA. When your mind hears stop, it sometimes tightens. When it hears switch, it's more curious. You're not slamming on the brakes, you're changing tracks with a gentle wrist. The STOP switch is the choreography that bridges your breath to your reframe and then to action. Think of it as a visible routine someone could film and learn. Eyes soften, shoulders drop on the exhale, the phrase comes in to label the thought, then the angles widen and a small step appears. Let's test it in a high-stakes moment. You're in a team meeting, the kind that decides a quarter. A colleague attributes your idea to someone else. Heat hits. Your vision narrows to the rectangle of their face, the edges too sharp. STOP switch now, see the surge, take 1446. Observe, buzz in the cheeks, urge to interject, thought they always do this. Proceed with the SWA that aligns with your identity sentence. If your RAS bookmark has been, I'm the kind of person who stays clear and kind while protecting my work, the SWA might be, when there's a gap, I fill it with clarity. You say, to build on the approach I shared last Friday, the risk is X, the move is Y, the room shifts. You didn't spike. You also didn't disappear, you conducted. Feel the air around your ears now. It has a weight you rarely notice, like a light shawl. Your shoulders can hang from the small hooks of your collarbones instead of tensing forward like a wrestler. Let your breath stroke the back of your throat like a river smooths a stone. Smell the faintest scent in the room, even if it's only the clean nothing that happens after rain. These sensory anchors are not indulgence. They are entrances. Every time you enter through them, you step into the awareness that watches the weather. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Sometimes the story sits not in the sentence but in the posture. That's where the emotional alchemy ladder enters. Each rung is a state that's reachable from the one you're on, not a leap. From rage to curiosity is too far. From rage to concern is possible. From concern to clarity is possible. From clarity to commitment is possible. You climb with breath, naming, and the smallest behavior that matches the next rung. If you catch yourself at resentful, the next rung might be protective. That shift softens the jaw. From protective, the next rung might be discerning. That shift lifts the eyes. Each rung has a bodily signature. Learn them and you can climb by feel, not just by thought. The latter prevents spiritual bypassing and honors the data of your nervous system while still giving you a way up. One rainy afternoon, a founder named Marco waited outside a glass-walled room for a financing meeting. The hallway smelled like toner and carpet glue. His email had dinged with a late change. His stomach clenched, his hands cooled, his mouth went cotton dry. Old story, they're going to pull the term sheet. He ran 4-4-6, 3 rounds. I'm having the thought that they're backing out. Protective angle. I care because this keeps people employed. Neutral angle. Last-minute edits are common. Legal language shifts. Growth angle. Ask for the core concern. Solve that live. He checked his rung and whispered, protective. He softened his brow and found discerning. He walked in and asked, before we dive into language, what's the single risk you most want to see mitigated? 10 minutes later, they had a clause they both liked. He walked back into the hallway lighter by 2 pounds, the air against his face a degree warmer. You're going to cement these moves with a micro-practice called the 5-word compass. After any surge you meet with breath and story editing, you'll end by writing or whispering 5 words that aim your identity for the next hour. It might be calm, clear, kind, firm, forward. It might be steady, curious, brief, precise, warm. You choose them based on the room you're about to enter. The act of naming the compass points tells your Ras what to retrieve. Your attention becomes a scout hunting for cues that match those words. When it finds one, you'll feel a click, and the click is confidence earned, not borrowed. Notice your palms. If they're cool, rub them together until heat blooms in the skin. If they're warm, hold a cool glass for a breath and feel the temperature exchange. Listen for the farthest sound you can locate and the closest one, like the soft friction of fabric when you inhale. Let your breath draw a slow rectangle in the air, up the left side on the inhale to 4, across the top on the hold to 4, down the right on the exhale to 6, across the bottom on the brief rest before the next inhale. In that rectangle, set your 5-word compass for the next scene of your day. Say it out loud if you can. Feel how your spine responds to certain words more than others. Keep the ones that wake a quiet strength. If you fear that reframing will turn you into someone who tolerates what should be changed, hear this clearly. This is not about excusing. It's about choosing. When you shift your story from automatic to intentional, your actions sharpen, not soften into mush. Many people misread calm as passivity. It is often the only reliable route to effective pressure. With the 3-perspective reframe, the STOP switch, the RAS bookmark, and the emotional alchemy ladder, you are not painting over mold. You are fixing the lake and repainting because you like living in a clean room. You will forget a dozen times tomorrow. You'll catch 1 out of 3, then 2 out of 4, then 7 out of 10. The catching is the path. Begin to expect that your first draft of a story will be dramatic. This neutral expectation prevents the second arrow of shame. When the first draft lands, they dismissed me, I blew it, smile like you found a sticky note you left yourself. Remember the room. Breathe 4-4-6. Say, I'm having the thought that, run the angles, climb 1 rung. Set the compass, proceed with 1 SWA, and when you can, write a 1-line director's cut in your notes app at night. Original, they ignored me, cut, 2 people were distracted, 1 was with me, next time I'll lead with the outcome. You're building a library of your own clarity. There's a moment you will come to love. It hides in the breath right after the longer exhale. For a fraction, everything is quiet. No push, no pull. If you turn your head slightly and sense the air moving across the tiny hairs inside your ear, you can almost hear the click of your nervous system switching tracks. That click isn't mystical. It's the sound of the baton coming back to your hand. You didn't force it. you guided it. And that is the whole thesis of this work. You can guide what you cannot command. On a Sunday, you sit on a park bench under a plane tree with bark like puzzle pieces. Children shout in the middle distance, a dog shakes its collar, a bicycle chain hums past. A thought arrives, old and familiar, you're behind. You breathe 4-4-6, 3 rounds, eyes on the shiver of light where wind catches leaves. I'm having the thought that I'm behind. Protective, I want a life that matters. Neutral, I'm between projects and my timeline is hazy. Growth, I can map 1 hour this afternoon and 1 tiny step. You check the rung and find concern, climb to clarity, and feel your ribs make room for a deeper inhale. You set a compass, steady, focused, kind, brief, onward and stand. Your feet know the ground. The ground knows your weight. The world is not fixed, but it is navigable, and you have a way of traveling now that respects both your feelings and your future. As you close this practice, rest 1 palm on your chest and 1 on your belly. The top hand rides the ocean's surface. The bottom hand feels the tide. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Let your shoulders fall, let your jaw float. Let the edges of the room blur and then come back crisp as the RAS follows your intention. Whisper your identity cue so softly only your own bones hear it. I'm the kind of person who breathes, names, and chooses. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The weather will change. The sky is patient. Your nervous system now knows how to step down from the ledge. The next frontier is quiet, deceptively simple, and wildly powerful. What you do with your attention once you've landed. Calm without focus is a car idling in neutral. Today you'll engage the gear called Deep Work Light, a way to get traction without drama. The toolset has 2 parts that click together like a clasp, the 10-minute beachhead and the red thread question. The beachhead is how you begin when the task looks like a cliff. The red thread is the single guiding line you keep in hand so you don't wander into perfectionism or panic. Together, they turn scattered hours into clean, satisfying progress. You'll still breathe 4-4-6 to enter, you'll still anchor a name, but then you'll move your hands on purpose. Start by arriving in your body, because focus lives in flesh before it lives in thought. Feel the air feather the inside of your nose. Let your jaw loosen and your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6, 3 times. On the final exhale, imagine you're letting sand run out of a fist. Place your feet flat, notice the cool patch of floor under your heels, and soften the muscles behind your eyes. This isn't a ritual for its own sake. It's a pre-flight check. When the amygdala quiets, blood returns to the prefrontal cortex, where planning, sequencing, and error detection live. You are not making yourself worthy of focus. You are making your brain ready to provide it. Now the 10-minute beachhead. When you face a task that triggers avoidance, your nervous system reads the horizon as hostile and demands a retreat. The beachhead gives you a tiny, defensible stretch of sand to land on and hold. It works this way. You define a unit so small it cannot alarm your biology, 10 minutes, and you define a rule so clean your mind can't bargain with it. During the 10, you attend only to the red thread. When the 10 ends, you're free to stop or continue. The permission to stop is not a trick. It's the ballast that keeps the boat from flipping. You will be surprised how often 10 turns into 30 or 50 because momentum is the cheapest fuel and the rarest commodity. You're about to manufacture it on demand. The red thread question is the compass you tie around your wrist. For any session, it is 1 sentence that starts with "right now," the most useful thing is, and ends with a concrete microaction that moves the work forward. You write it on paper where your eyes can fall on it when your mind tries escape routes. You might write, "Right now, the most useful thing is drafting the first 3 lines." Or, "Right now, the most useful thing is outlining the steps in plain language. Or right now, the most useful thing is opening the spreadsheet and typing the column headers. The phrasing matters. Useful speaks to your inner operator, not your inner critic. Right now confines the demand to a small, safe window. The red thread cuts through brambles of perfectionism because it refuses to argue abstractions. It asks for movement you can feel in your fingers. You'll see the pair at work in a story you recognize. On a humid afternoon, you faced a report that had lived in your peripheral vision for a week like a ghost. Every time you looked at the file name, your stomach cooled, your breath became shallow. Old habit, scroll, tidy a drawer, open 6 tabs as if research could replace courage. You stood instead, placed your palms on the back of a chair, and ran 3-4-4-6 breaths. Anchor thumb to wrist, here. Name the weather, prickle at the scalp, urge to clean, thought that I need a perfect plan before I begin. Then you set your beachhead, 10 minutes. You wrote your red thread. Right now, the most useful thing is to type 3 messy bullets for the introduction. You started a silent count to 10 minutes with the second hand on the kitchen clock. When your attention strayed toward a headline or a sudden itch to wipe the counter, you glanced at the red thread and whispered, "Right now." At minute 9, the resistance was a low hum instead of a siren. At minute 10, you could stop. You didn't. You set another beachhead with a new red thread. Right now, the most useful thing is to sketch subheadings. When you finally walked away, the file was not finished, but the ghost had turned into a person you could speak to by name. Notice your skin now. The air has a temperature, a weight, a movement across the hairs on your forearms that most days you forget. Let your shoulders drop back a fraction as if they could lean against the inside of your shoulder blades. Inhale to 4 and feel space open between ribs. Hold to 4 and picture a calm lake. Exhale to 6 and feel your navel draw toward your spine as the breath leaves like a tide. On the exhale's tail, place a piece of paper where your eyes rest naturally and write a red thread for the next 10 minutes of your actual life. If you don't have a task, right now, the most useful thing is to breathe 3 rounds and put 1 glass of water on my desk. You are stacking signals, physiological safety, visible intention, and time-limited demand. Your brain loves stacks. There is a second framework you'll add to protect the beachhead when distractions circle. The temptation parking lot. Your mind will offer brilliant, urgent ideas the moment you start. This is not sabotage. It's a safety reflex posing as creativity. Rather than wrestling each idea, you create a single, welcoming space. 1 index card, 1 note window, 1 literal sticky note on your desk, where you jot down temptations as they arrive. Check shipping, text Sam, Google Synapse pruning, clean mug. Every entry earns 15 seconds, never more. You thank the impulse and park it. The brain calms when it believes its ideas haven't been erased. You calm because you've kept your red thread in hand. At the end of the beachhead, you'll process the parking lot. 2 you'll do later, 1 you'll discard, 1 you'll give 1 minute now because it truly was small and useful. You just converted noise into a list rather than a leash. In a glass-walled office with a view of red tail lights, Zadie, a product manager, lived inside fire alarms. Her day was reactive by design, but her promotion depended on a strategy memo that had no siren attached, only a quiet deadline 2 weeks away. Each evening she planned to write. Each evening she found emergencies. One Tuesday she shut the door and made a micro-theater of it. She pulled the blinds halfway, placed a single sticky note at the center of her desk, and wrote, "Right now, the most useful thing is to fill a skeleton of sections in 5 sentences." She set her phone face down across the room, not as a punishment, but as a kindness to a nervous animal. She breathed 3-4-4-6 cycles until the buzz in her hands softened. Then the ideas started arriving like popcorn. Check last quarter metrics, reread a thread, ask dev one thing. She created a temptation parking lot on the sticky note and caught each kernel with a quick scribble. The red thread held. 10 minutes became 40. When she walked out, the skyline had gone indigo. The memo was a body with bones. She felt a warm heaviness across her shoulders, the kind you feel after carrying something worth carrying. Feel the weight of your own shoulders now. Rotate them once backward, slow, and hear the quiet grit of fascia realigning like a zipper. There's a sound in the room, perhaps a refrigerator compressor or a distant engine. Let that sound be your metronome for the next paragraph. As the sound pulses, count your inhale, your hold, your exhale. On the third exhale, whisper your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who starts small and stays with the thread. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also the steward of your attention. Stewardship is not severe, it is devoted. You'll make focus even easier by changing the way you cross thresholds. You move between rooms and roles dozens of times a day. Each crossing is a chance to let your system know what's expected next. Enter the threshold ritual. Before you begin a beachhead, you perform a 10-second sequence the same way every time. You place your left hand on the table, straighten the sheet of paper that holds the red thread, take 1-4-4-6 breath, and hum a note just loud enough to feel your lips vibrate, which stimulates the vagus nerve and grounds you. Then you begin. The brain loves ritual because it predicts. Prediction calms. Calming sustains attention. The threshold ritual is how you tell your ancient wiring, this is safe work. You can send blood where it's needed. A story from a kitchen at dawn. A parent, eyelids heavy, wanted to write for 10 minutes before the house woke. The kettle clicked, baby monitor quiet. They lit a candle that smelled like cedar, set a single sheet of paper on the table and wrote, "Right now the most useful thing is to sketch the closing paragraph." The temptation parking lot earned 3 scribbles. Defrost chicken, email teacher, check weather. 10 minutes later, the paragraph existed where only a fog had been. A small foot thumped down the hallway. The candle flicked. A day began. The parent blew the flame with a 4-4-6 exhale and felt the room shift from studio to kitchen. The paragraph came with them like a talisman in a pocket. Watch what happens to procrastination when you remove the performance demand and replace it with a presence demand. The beachhead asks you to keep a promise for 10 minutes and to refuse to narrate your value while you do. The red thread asks you for one move at a time. These are not hacks, they are respect. Respect for a system that can do remarkable things when it's not being bullied. Over time, the beachhead rewires the association your body has with starting. Instead of danger, it learns a flavor of predictable effort, often paired with sensory cues you come to like. The smell of coffee, the sound of a fan, the feel of a pen gliding over paper, the cool circle your mug leaves on the desk that you wipe away afterward with a slow, satisfying arc. Take an intermission to check your breath. Inhale to 4 while you look at one fixed point on a wall. Hold to 4 while you soften your eyes so the edges blur. Exhale to 6 while you let your shoulders drop 2 millimeters. Notice the tiny tendons along the side of your neck slacken. If your attention slips to a worry, give it a parking spot with a single word on a scrap, later, and return to the point on the wall. You are not fighting your mind. You are training a Labrador puppy with treats and patience. The puppy will sit more often when the pattern becomes delicious. There's another small but potent device for focus when you're inside the beachhead and the mind gets noisy. the one-breath boundary. You create a verbal fence that takes one slow exhale to say, under your breath, "Not now, I'm with this." You speak it on the 6th count out. The words ride the breath like a banner. The effect is immediate. The thought you were about to chase bumps the fence and waits more often than it barges through. If it's truly urgent, you'll catch it in the parking lot at the next inhale. Most thoughts are not burglars, they're children tugging at your sleeve. A kind boundary teaches them when you're available. An afternoon in a library proved this to you. You sat at a wood table that smelled faintly of varnish and dust. A sun square lay across the floor. Your red thread read, "Right now, the most useful thing is to summarize 3 pages of research into plain English." The minute you started, your brain offered a flood of other brilliance. Reorganize citations, check an unrelated article, rewrite an earlier section. You breathed in, held, and on the exhale whispered, "Not now, I'm with this." The phrase rode the breath like a string pulling a kite back down to your hand. The kite didn't vanish. It simply hovered within reach. You caught it later, and it didn't cost you the session. There will be days when 10 minutes feels heroic. On those days, you'll turn the beachhead into the 2mm move, a variant for when your system is already frayed. 2mm is the difference between closed and open. It is opening the dock and typing a placeholder title. It is laying out running shoes and tying one lace. It is writing a single sentence that begins, "In this section, I will." 2mm establish direction. Direction generates the first molecule of momentum. Momentum calls for another molecule. When you've stacked 20 molecules, you call it progress. A brain that has been punished for not doing enough begins to trust again when it experiences completion in micro. Trust changes everything. Check your hands. Without looking, notice the position of your fingers. Are they curled, extended, tense? Place your palms together and rub until heat blooms, then place one palm over your sternum. Feel the echo of your own drum. Inhale to 4, the bottom hand near your navel rises. Hold to 4, the top hand waits like a parent at a crosswalk. Exhale to 6, both hands settle. Hear the tiny click of your swallow. Your body is a room with a window you can open. Open it and your focus sits down in a chair as if it owns the place, which it does. You may worry that this discipline will strip your work of spontaneity. Listen closely. Spontaneity flourishes inside structure the way vines flourish on a trellis. The beachhead creates the trellis. The red thread guides the vine toward light instead of letting it sprawl on the ground under tires. Creativity is not the opposite of routine, it is the fruit of it. The 4-4-6 reset is how you water the roots. The one-breath boundary keeps the gate closed while the fruit ripens. The temptation parking lot turns gusts of wind into notes for tomorrow's weather rather than torn leaves. Before we close, set up a focus sanctuary you can step into anywhere. It's not a room, it's a sequence your body recognizes. You place both feet flat. You touch the table edge and say, "Here." You run 1-4-4-6 breath. You write the red thread. You set a timer to 10 that makes no sound, only a discrete vibration at the end, or you watch the second hand of a clock like a lighthouse beam circling. You create a single parking lot note. You whisper, "Not now, I'm with this," once. You begin. When the timer ends, you stand and take 5 slow steps, feeling the roll of heel to toe. You look at something farther than 20 feet to relax your ciliary muscles. You decide, continue or stop. Both choices are honorable. The sanctuary is not sacred because it is perfect. It is sacred because you return to it, and it returns you to yourself. A closing story to anchor this in identity. On a late Friday, your younger self might have stayed late pretending to work, scrolling windows that felt like effort but tasted like guilt. Last Friday, you tried the sanctuary. 10 minutes, red thread, parking lot, one breath boundary. You left on time with a single messy page that carried the shape of next week. Walking to the train, the air felt cooler against your cheeks. You watched steam rise from a food cart and didn't feel the usual tug of regret. On the platform, you whispered without performance, "I'm the kind of person who starts small and stays with the thread." The words rang true because your body had evidence. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the conductor, and now you're also the craftsperson who shows up when it's time to put hands on the instrument. As you end this session, give yourself a live repetition. Choose one tiny task within reach. Breathe 4-4-6. Write your red thread in 8 words. Set 10 minutes on a clock you can see. Create a single parking spot for wayward thoughts. Whisper, "Not now, I'm with this." Begin, feel the chair, hear the hum, smell the quiet. When the 10 ends, notice the residue, less dread, more ground underfoot. That is the feeling of clarity rebooted, not by accident, but by practice. The practice will hold when pressure rises, because you didn't build it on motivation. You built it on methods your biology understands. Calm and focus are changing your days. Now you'll protect the space they create. Without boundaries, your clarity leaks like water through a cracked jar. Boundaries aren't walls you build to keep life out. They're bridges you design so energy can cross in the right direction. The tool you'll learn today is the boundary bridge, a 3-part line that honors the relationship and still holds the line. Name reality, state the limit, offer the next step. You'll pair it with the 2-sentence ask, a direct request stripped of apology and drama. Together, they turn resentment into clean language. You'll still begin with 4-4-6 and the awareness you've trained, because a boundary built from panic shatters, a boundary built from breath holds. Begin by feeling where boundaries live in your body. They are not ideas first. They are sensations. When you say yes while meaning no, heat gathers in your throat and your shoulders creep like they're trying to hide your heart. When you say no with contempt, your jaw hardens and your chest becomes a shield. Neither state helps. Feel the room you're in, the air temperature at the bridge of your nose, the weight of fabric on your collarbones, the quiet hum in the wall. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6, 3 times, and imagine you're widening a doorway 2 inches. Through that doorway, your voice will walk out steady. The boundary bridge has a rhythm that your nervous system can memorize. First, you name reality with a neutral observation that reduces defensiveness. "I see the deadline moved up," or "We've talked about dishes 3 nights in a row," or "You called 3 times during my meeting." Second, you state the limit in plain language without courtroom exhibits. "Here, what I can do and what I won't," or "I'm not available for that," or "I'll take calls after 2. Third, you offer the next step, a path forward that keeps connection without surrender. "We can ship a simpler version," or "I'll cook tonight if we clean together after," or "Text me and I'll call back by 3. Name limit next. Say it once calmly. If the other person tries to drag you into narrative, return to the bridge and walk it again. You'll test it in a scene. It's late afternoon, the light outside is the color of brass. Your manager drops by your desk with a quick request that is not quick. Your chest tips forward, your breath climbs your throat. Old habit, say yes, pay later. You place your thumb on your wrist under the desk anchor and run 1-4-4-6. You speak the bridge. "I see this needs a fast turnaround. Here's what I can do today and what I can't. I'll finalize slides 2 and 3. I won't be able to build the model by 5. We can ship the deck with a placeholder and add the model tomorrow by noon." Then you stop. You don't fill the silence with reasons that invite debate. The manager pauses, then nods. The world didn't end. Your body receives that data like cool water down a hot throat. Feel your spine now. Let it stack like coins instead of bracing like a board. Drop your shoulders down and back a centimeter. Inhale to 4 and let your ribs widen sideways. Hold to 4 and hear the room, even if what you hear is the delicate lack of sound. Exhale to 6 and notice your face soften. Imagine the words you'll need landing on your tongue like small stones you can place on a table, each one enough, none of them sharp. There's a second piece to lock in place, the yes-no ledger. Most people bleed their week away because their yes and no are unconscious. You'll make them visible. At the start of a day, whisper one sentence to your RAS bookmark. I'm the kind of person who gives 1 bold yes and 2 clean no's. Then you write them, not as a to-do list, but as a declaration of energy. The bold yes is the one action that moves your real work, the thing that, if done, buys you a quiet mind. The 2 clean no's are predecisions, what you will not take on today. When a request arrives, you consult the ledger. If it threatens your bold yes, it earns a no or a reschedule. The ledger is not rigid, it's honest. You can redraw it at noon if reality changes. What you cannot do is pretend you have infinite currency. The body knows, it keeps receipts in muscle tension. An anecdote to make this tangible. Leela ran operations for a small studio that thrived on last-minute brilliance. Her phone might buzz at 9 p.m. with a quick tweak that meant 3 hours. She loved the work and resented it in equal measure. Resentment whispered at night and cost her sleep. After learning the boundary bridge, she tried the 2-sentence ask and the ledger in 1 week. On Monday morning, she set her bold yes, hire a freelance editor. Clean no new projects before Wednesday. Clean no Slack after 7 p.m. that evening. A quick tweak pinged at 8:22. She felt the pull like hands at her elbows. She ran 1446, tasted the cooler air at the back of her throat and typed her ask. Can this wait until morning? If not, what's the smallest piece you must have by 9 that won't derail tomorrow's deliverables? The client paused and replied, morning is fine. Send the color-corrected frame by 10. Leela closed the laptop. Her shoulders dropped. She washed a dish as if the water carried a small ceremony. Resentment didn't visit that night. Check your own micro-boundary right now. Is there a place where you leak? The coworker who books you for quick syncs, the family thread that pings into every hour, the habit of letting your phone pick up your attention like a magnet at red lights. Put your palm on your sternum, feel the faint thud under bone, and whisper a 1-line boundary bridge you could speak this week. Keep it tight. I'm not available for midday DMs. Send requests by email and I'll respond at 3. Or I turn my phone off at 9. If something breaks, call twice and I'll see it. The act of rehearsing out loud while exhaling to 6 wires the language into your nervous system so it shows up when your heart rate is up. Because your body is the instrument, you'll add the 90-second boundary builder. It's a drill for when you must draw a line live. Step 1, step aside. Literally take 1 side step or shift your weight to break the fight-flight set. Step 2, breathe 1446. Step 3, speak the bridge once. Step 4, hold silence for 1 full inhale and exhale. That silence is where most boundaries die because the anxious mind rushes to fill it with apologies. You'll let the silence be your ally. If the other person argues, return to step 3. 2 loops, then propose the next step again. You're not a prosecuting attorney, you're a conductor keeping time. In a warm kitchen that smelled like onions and thyme, you tried it with someone you love. The pattern was familiar, you cooking, them arriving late, conversations slipping into a dance of sarcasm. The moment they walked in late again, you felt heat rise and your breath jump. You placed the knife down, took 1 side step, ran a 446. We've been starting dinner late a lot. I'm serving at 7. If you're not here, I'll plate yours and eat with you after. I want to enjoy this. Then you let the quiet hang without padding it. They opened their mouth to explain. You nodded once and repeated, 7, I'll plate yours if you're late. The next night, they walked in at 7:02, kiss on your cheek, a grin like a surrender. The food tasted better because it was not seasoned with swallowed resentment. Pause and visit your senses. The floor under your feet has a particular firmness. Your breath brushes your upper lip on the way out, warm against cooler air. Your ears pick up a layered set of sounds, near and far, mechanical and organic. These signals tell your ancient mind that you are not under attack, and from that safety, your boundary language can remain kind. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also the architect who sets the door frames. Another framework will keep your boundaries aligned with who you mean to be, the values check-in. When a boundary feels harsh or a yes feels leaky, you ask 2 questions in sequence. What value am I protecting? What value am I willing to disappoint slightly to protect it? Most conflicts are not between good and evil, but between 2 goods. When you say no to a late-night email, you are not choosing laziness over excellence. You are choosing rest to protect excellence tomorrow. Say the values out loud so your nervous system hears the story as honorable. I'm choosing presence with family over availability tonight so I can bring excellence at 9. Your prefrontal cortex likes this clarity. It reduces the guilt static that otherwise erodes resolve. On a bright Wednesday, an executive named Nor faced a boundary that threatened to tangle. A marquee client wanted a Saturday meeting. Her calendar said her daughter's recital. Old Nor would have said yes and scanned the audience with a stomach like a fist. New Nor ran the values check-in on a walk where sunlight flickered through jacaranda leaves. Protect connection with my child. Slightly disappoint responsiveness to a client once to protect long-term trust. She breathed 446, then sent the boundary bridge with a 2-sentence ask. I see the urgency. I'm not available Saturday. I can meet Friday at 4 or Monday at 9. If this must happen Saturday, I can send our senior lead. The client chose Friday. Nor sat in an auditorium seat that evening with a soft ache in her chest that felt like pride, not loss. The music sounded warmer because she had chosen on purpose. Notice your jaw now. Let it unhook a little. Place the tip of your tongue against the back of your top teeth and feel the base of your skull ease. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. On the exhale, whisper your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who holds clear, kind lines. You aren't performing in a courtroom. You're tuning an instrument. Boundaries are sound checks, so the music of your days can be heard without feedback screech. Sometimes the person you need to boundary is the inner hustler who turns every minute into a task. That's where the workday shutdown, a ritual borrowed and refit, becomes a boundary you set with yourself. 10 minutes before you end, you scan your note labeled resets and your yes-no ledger. You tie off threads, jot the first line for tomorrow's bold yes, send 2 clarifying sentences, park temptations for the morning. You breathe 1446, close the laptop and say out loud, workday closed, I'll meet you at 9. Then you physically touch a doorframe as you leave the room. Your nervous system learns that the threshold is real. The phone can try its tugs. Your feet will remember the ritual and your hand will remember the doorframe. It's a boundary you can walk through and back, not a trap. A short story to catch the feeling. After months of practicing, you visited a friend. Conversation moved from light to heavy. They reached for your old versions, the ones that volunteered for everything. You felt the well-worn path open in your chest, overpromise, underrest. You ran a 446 under the table. I want to be here with you. I can help with research on Sunday for an hour. I can't take on the whole grant. let's list what matters most. Their face softened, not because you sacrificed, but because you stayed honestly present. You left their apartment with a body that hummed like a well-tuned engine, not a drained battery. There will be pushback. Systems resist change. When your boundary is tested, you'll be tempted to either defend with a thesis or collapse into an apology. Neither is needed. Return to breath, return to bridge, repeat the limit once, then pivot to the next step. If the other person escalates, you protect your nervous system with the exit grace, a single sentence that ends the exchange without poison. I'm going to step away and we can revisit at 3, or I'm ending this thread here, send a bullet list and I'll reply tomorrow. The exit grace is not a slam, it's a clean click of a latch. It preserves the relationship by refusing to turn disagreement into a second, larger problem. Lift your eyes to a point across the room and let your peripheral vision expand by a few degrees. Feel how that single act lowers urgency. It's the opposite of tunnel vision. The body cues the mind, there is space here. With space, you can choose. You notice the scent in the room, paper, soap, rain. You hear your own breath leave like a tide, longer than it entered. In this body, boundaries are not clenched, they are clear. Plant a micro-practice for the next 24 hours. Choose one boundary you'll test with the 90-second boundary builder. Write the one line on a card. Rehearse it once while breathing. When the moment arrives, step aside, breathe, speak the bridge, hold the silence, repeat once if needed, then offer the next step. After, write a single line in your resets note. Boundary held at noon, felt heat, then relief. Your brain loves evidence. Tomorrow, when you whisper your identity cue, it will echo against that evidence and ring real. Before we close, touch your collarbone gently, a gesture you've used to anchor. Feel the bones under skin, the firm truth of structure. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Picture a bridge spanning a river. It doesn't insult the river or block it. It directs the crossing. Your boundaries will do the same. They will carry your attention from the work that matters to the people who matter and back, without the ferries of guilt or the tolls of resentment. This is not about becoming hard. It's about becoming honest. Honest with your time, your energy, your values, your yes, your no. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also the author of your agreements, and you can write them in language that both protects and connects. When you finish this session, try the 2-sentence ask on something small. Could we move our check-in to 10? That protects my focus block. Or please put requests in one message. I'll answer at lunch. Speak it on a long exhale. Feel your ribs settle as the words land. That settling is your body learning you can stand where you stand without armor. And from that stance, you can be generous on purpose instead of generous by accident. The jar you carry is less cracked than it was. The water you pour stays. The people who drink from it get the clear version of you, not the strained, thin leftover. That is the point of boundaries, not withdrawal but quality. When your yes means yes and your no is clean, trust grows. Others, trust in you and your own trust in yourself. Trust is the soil where the next parts of this work will root. You've learned to steady, focus, and hold your lines. Now you'll build the power plant behind all of it, recovery. Clarity doesn't only come from what you do, it comes from how you refuel between doing. You don't need a spa or a sabbatical. You need an energy architecture, repeatable circuits that restore your biology before it begs. The tools today are the ultradian reset and the soma cycle. Ultradian reset means you ride your natural 90-minute waves of attention and insert a deliberate 7-minute refuel before the crash. The soma cycle, sip, oxygen, move, attend, is the tiny ritual you run inside those 7 minutes. Together, they prevent the slow leak that turns good weeks into brittle months. You will still breathe 4-4-6. You'll still anchor a name. But now you'll add cadence, so your system knows when help is coming and stops screaming for it in all caps. Begin by noticing the residue in your body right now. Your eyes have a grain to them, like a screen that needs dusting. The skin at your temples may feel tight. Your lower back might be telling the story of the chair you've been in. Let your feet feel the floor as if you could plug them into a socket beneath the surface. Inhale to 4, lightly hold to 4, exhale to 6. On the exhale, notice the subtle softening between your shoulder blades, as if tiny hands set down a weight you didn't know you were carrying. This is the first law of the energy architecture, physiology first. When you change your state, you change the story. When you change the story, you change the day. Here is the shape of ultradian rhythm in human terms. Your brain cycles through peaks and dips of alertness roughly every 90 minutes. At the crest, your prefrontal cortex hums. At the trough, the body requests maintenance, hydration, glucose, oxygen, a brief visual rest. Most of us ignore the early messages until the body turns the lights off. You will do the opposite. You will call the maintenance crew before the outage. After 80 to 90 minutes of focused work or emotionally expensive engagement, you'll run a 7-minute ultradian reset. 7 is not mystical. It's what your biology can respect inside a modern schedule without triggering rebellion. If you string 3 of these cycles in a day, you will end with a steady flame instead of ash. You'll use the Soma cycle to make each reset automatic. Sip is water or tea, slow enough to feel temperature trace your throat. Oxygen is 3 rounds of 4-4-6, with 1 bonus stretch on the final exhale. Move is 40 to 90 seconds of gentle motion, 30 steps down a hall, shoulder circles, leaning into a doorway to open your chest. Attend is a single, kind sentence that points your RAS. Right now, recovery is the work, or I'm the kind of person who refuels before I fray. The entire sequence fits in 7 minutes. Over time, your nervous system will begin to anticipate it, lowering the background alarm because it trusts you to take care of the machine that carries your mind. Watch it in a real day. You start strong at 9. At 10:30, your screen looks a fraction dimmer and your thoughts feel like they're moving through syrup. Old pattern, coffee, grit, promise yourself a break later. Today you stand and touch the doorframe anchor, then walk 30 slow steps, counting the 6-beat exhales. You pour a glass of water and feel the cool against your palm. Sip. 3-4-4-6 rounds, the last with your arms overhead, fingers interlaced, ribs widening like blinds opening to light. Oxygen. You roll your shoulders back until you hear the quiet sound of tissue saying yes, and step outside to look at something farther than the far wall so your eye muscles reset. Move. You whisper, right now, recovery is the work, which flips your brain from guilt to permission. Attend. You return to your desk not as a martyr, but as a mechanic who wiped the oil from their hands and tightened the right bolt. The work feels lighter by 10%. 10% changes trajectories. Feel your mouth now. The roof is cool, the tongue a warm weight. If you unclench it by a degree, your jaw follows, then your neck, then your thoughts. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. On the exhale, hear the smallest sound in the room, the hum inside the wall, the faint tick you usually ignore. Your hearing softens around it. That softening is not leisure. It's how the parasympathetic system whispers to the vigilant parts of your brain that the perimeter is safe. A story from a Thursday that would have eaten you before. Tasha was a nurse on a surgical floor, careful and fast. By noon, her calves burned and her temper shortened. The dip hit during charting. She would either mistype or overcompensate with speed. After a colleague's gentle nudge, she started to run an ultradian reset at the end of each medication round. Sip was a long pull from a bottle she kept in a side pocket, long enough to actually taste mineral and chlorine. Oxygen was 3-4-4-6 breaths in the stairwell where the air moved. Move was a single flight up and down, not for steps, but to feel her quads wake and her shoulders settle. Attend was a sentence. I refuel so I don't make haste mistakes. The first week, she felt indulgent. The third week, she noticed her error rate drop and her patience survived the fifth family question. Her supervisor noticed too. Performance didn't rise because she hustled harder. It rose because she learned to step off the treadmill before her legs buckled. You'll add a second framework that makes refueling sweeter, the gratitude in shadow. Simple gratitude sometimes slides off the mind because it feels performative when you're tired. Gratitude in shadow asks you to name the hidden support under a difficulty. The email backlog means people trust your input. The toddler's tantrum means their nervous system trusts you enough to unwind. The traffic means you've carved a life that puts you on roads toward purpose. You don't use this to sugarcoat. You use it to widen, which reduces threat and lets recovery do its job. Practice it inside Soma's attend, one sentence that names the shadow gift. Your body hears the shift, your breath lengthens on its own. Check your eyes for a moment. Let your gaze land on a far object, then a near one, then close your lids and feel the soft grit of sleep sand at the edges. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. On the exhale, imagine you are rinsing your vision from the inside. When your eyes soften, your entire sympathetic set point drops a notch. That notch is enough to make different choices. You'll anchor these cycles to predictable cues so they happen without debate. The kettle click. The calendar alert at 27. The stretch of standing after a call ends. That anchor launches Soma. If you want the cue to be louder, add a physical token, an elastic around your wrist that you slide to the other hand at the end of a 90-minute block. A smooth stone in your pocket that you touch when the screen blurs. The token is not magic. It's a breadcrumb your future self can follow back to good behavior when your present self is too empty to think. There's also food and light, the two most honest signals you can feed your biology. You'll build a micro-refuel, a date-sized portion of protein or fat if you run long, not sugar that spikes and drops you. A handful of nuts, a spoon of yogurt, a slice of cheese, a small apple with peanut butter. You'll pair it with light, 2 minutes of outdoor daylight before noon when possible, so your circadian clock anchors. If you can't go out, you'll stand by a window and look at the brightest patch. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to remind your ancient system that the sun still exists, that food is not a panic button, and that you are a reliable caretaker. Meet Omar, an engineer who treated his body like a backpack for his brain. He lived in headphones and code. At 3 p.m., he always hit the wall. He used to bash through it with caffeine and end the night ragged. After hearing about ultradian cycles, he installed a tiny ritual. He put a small plant on his desk, not for aesthetics, but as a living metronome. If the soil dried, so did he. At 90 minutes, he walked to a window, sipped water, breathed 4-4-6, did 10 slow calf raises, feeling his heels kiss the floor, and whispered, "Right now, refuel is the work." He ate a boiled egg and a pinch of salt, then returned. 3 weeks later, he noticed something odd. He hadn't hit the wall. He never climbed it either. He simply walked around the edge because he'd mapped the ground. Listen to the air by your ears again. Is it cool or warm? Does it move or sit? Let those answers be data, not poetry. Your nervous system loves data you can feel. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Smell the room for a note you missed: paper, skin, dust, soap. When you track senses, you signal to the threat network that the world is detailed, not dangerous. Detail invites curiosity. Curiosity and fear do not share the same chair. Recovery also means sleep, the largest lever you have and the one most people try to yank with force. You'll treat sleep like a landing rather than a crash. The landing sequence begins 90 minutes before bed. Dim lights by 1 notch. Reduce overhead glare that screams noon at your retina. Shift your screens to warmer tones. Tuck tomorrow into a single sentence on paper. Tomorrow's bold yes. Outline the draft so your mind doesn't rehearse it in the dark. Run 3, 4, 4, 6 breaths with a longer hold on the last one, signaling it's safe to descend. If the mind brings you a list, you'll use the temptation parking lot on your nightstand and write with the lights low, eyes half-lidded, to keep the body from revving. Then the ritual of 3, water by the bed, a stretch that opens your chest, and a phrase to your nervous system. Off duty, the night can carry me. You awake in the night sometimes. When you do, you'll run 1 soma cycle in miniature. A small sip, 1, 4, 4, 6, roll ankles in slow circles, attend with, even this is part of rest. You'll be surprised how often your body takes the cue. A memory you know, lying in the blue light of a phone, scrolling to blunt the buzz. Your shoulders were at your ears and your breath barely moved your ribs. You tried to drop the device, but your hand kept finding it. The night turned thin. The next day began heavy. Last month, you tried the landing sequence. You turned down the lamps until the room felt like honey. You wrote 1 line for tomorrow. You stood near the window and stretched your arms like a slow yawn. You breathed 4, 4, 6 until your jaw clicked with release. You whispered, off duty, and let yourself be human instead of a machine that resents its own limits. You slept. Not perfectly, not heroically, but enough. And enough changes everything. Recovery leaks through people too. Some conversations refuel you, some are beautiful but draining, some are genuine hazards. You'll build a people battery map. Think of 3 individuals you see weekly. After each interaction, run a quick check. Did my breath deepen? Did my shoulders drop? Did my mind widen? If 2 of 3 are no, that person withdraws energy. You don't cut them, you plan for them. You place a soma cycle before or after. You set a boundary bridge inside. You shorten the window, or you stack a refuel afterward. This is not cold. It's loving, because you arrive resourced rather than brittle and blaming. Feel your hands now, the pads of your fingers, the coolness or warmth of your palms. Rub them together until heat blooms and place 1 over your sternum, 1 over your belly. Inhale 4, the lower hand lifts. Hold 4, both hands hover. Exhale 6, both hands settle. Whisper your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who refuels before I fray. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also the steward of a body that wants to help you if you'll stop treating it like an afterthought. Another tool adds nuance when you can't step away, the micro switch. It's a 15-second nervous system nudge you can do in a meeting, a call, a crowded train. 3 steps. Soften your gaze to widen your peripheral vision. Exhale long through pursed lips as if cooling soup, and drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth. That trio tells your ancient brain we're not sprinting from a predator, we're staying to think. Your voice warms, your choices sharpen. You can run micro switch inside the ultradian reset, or on its own, whenever you catch yourself bracing. In a fluorescent lit stand-up, Adrian felt his chest plate on. Issues piled, the room smelled like coffee and impatience. He couldn't leave. He ran micro switch, eyes soft, soup breath, tongue released. The impulse to talk fast dissolved by half. He asked one red thread question, got a real answer, and avoided the spiral that would have consumed the hour. After, he walked the stairwell, ran Soma, and came back to a day that didn't need rescue. Your energy architecture needs a long-term rhythm too. Choose 2 anchors per day, one morning walk under real sky, 5 to 10 minutes, and one afternoon breath set, 3 rounds of 4-4-6. Those 2 anchors are bookends around the ultradian resets. Over weeks, they become the skeleton of steadiness. Your gait smooths. Your voice lowers a half step. People ask if you've changed something. You have, but it isn't a supplement or a secret. It's cooperation with the organism that wants to carry you farther than panic ever can. There will be resistance. A voice will say you don't have time. That voice is speaking from a body that has been taught to earn rest with collapse. You will choose to teach it a new lesson. Rest is not a reward, it is a requirement. Run one 7-minute reset and then check your output, your accuracy, your mood. Collect evidence. Put it in your resets, note next to the boundary notes. 11:37 reset, finished draft without reread loop. 3:09 reset, right arrow, playful with kids at 5. The ledger becomes a mirror. The mirror becomes a map. Before you move on, proof this in real time. Stand if you can. Feel your feet meet the ground with a slow, rolling contact from heel to toe. Sip water, 2 swallows you can taste. Breathe 4-4-6 3 times, the last with your arms reaching, palms up, as if catching light. Take 20 slow steps, counting 6 on each exhale. At step 10, name the weather, buzz in the forearms, urge to push through. At step 15, whisper your attend line. Right now, recovery is the work. At step 20, choose one next gentle move. Sit, open the window, write a red thread for the next 10 minutes. Feel the temperature on your skin change by a degree. Your brain logs the shift. This is how a practice becomes an identity, through lived proof, not declarations. On a rainy morning, you watched steam rise from a mug and felt time stretch in a way that used to scare you. Empty space once meant anxiety had room to shout. Now it means you have room to hear nuance. You breathe. The steam curls. The clock hand moves. You run a micro-soma without ceremony. Your day doesn't begin with a launch. It begins with a merge onto a road you know, at a speed your nervous system likes, with enough fuel to pass when you need to, and enough patience to slow when that's wiser. Let's firm up the architecture with a weekly sweep. Choose one afternoon, Friday, 15 minutes. You look back at your resets, note and circle 3 moments where recovery changed the arc. You underline the anchor that worked best, kettle, doorframe, calendar, 27. You choose one people battery interaction to buffer next week. You plan 3 ultradian reset slots in your calendar as if they were meetings with your future self. You keep them as strictly as you keep other commitments. This is not self-importance, it's self-respect turned into calendar ink. Every practice you've gathered rests on the same truth. A steadied body gives you back your choices. Recovery is how you keep that body steady without needing heroics. When you leave this session, run one 7-minute reset today on purpose. Write one line so your brain can see it later. Recovery paid for clarity at 2:14. Whisper your identity sentence once as you exhale. I'm the kind of person who refuels before I fray. Feel the echo in your ribs. It's small. It's real. It's enough to build on. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also the caretaker of the instrument that plays your life's music. Treat it well and it will widen your world. Treat it with contempt and it will narrow it. You know this. You have felt both. Now you have levers and loops that make the kind version repeatable. Confidence is not a mood you wait for. It is a byproduct of small, aligned risks repeated while your heart beats louder than usual. Today is about action under voltage, the kind you've been postponing because the body says no before your mind can vote. You will learn to dose courage the way a careful chemist titrates a solution, drop by drop until you hit change without burning the beaker. Two tools turn fear into motion without pretending fear vanishes. The first is the 2-minute courage window, a tight frame where biology and commitment shake hands. The second is the risk titration ladder, a way to dial exposure up in increments your nervous system can metabolize. Use them together and you will stop waiting to feel brave. You will act, and bravery will arrive like heat from friction, produced by movement, not a prerequisite. Begin in your body. Courage has a signature, buzz along the ribs, a rise of heat in the face, a thump that travels from sternum to throat. Your ancient wiring reads that as danger, you will teach it to read it as capacity. Stand or sit taller by a hair as if a string lifts the crown of your head. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6, 3 rounds. On the third exhale, soften your gaze so the room widens by 2 degrees. Touch the edge of a table and whisper, "Here." Your prefrontal cortex hums back online. Now write the thing you've been avoiding in 7 plain words. Send proposal, have the hard talk, hit publish, book the appointment. The sentence will try to grow teeth. Keep it simple. You are not signing a mortgage. You are naming a door. The 2-minute courage window works because adrenaline peaks and then decays on a curve. You will ride the crest into a deliberate act before the mind reconsiders. Set a 2-minute timer, silent if you can, a ticking analog if the sound steadies you. Breathe 1-4-4-6. Pair it with the STOP switch you've learned. See surge, take breath, observe 3 tracks, proceed. Then you count down from 100 by 7s or by 3s, any mildly effortful math that uses up the anxious narrator's air, until the timer ends. When it does, you perform the first inch of the action you named. Click compose, type hey in 1 line, dial the number and let it ring twice, open the calendar and pick 2 slots, walk to the other room and say, "Do you have 5 minutes?" Courage is time-bound. This window protects it from being argued to death. Pause and listen for the farthest sound you can find, the whisper of an air vent, a truck braking outside, a kettle sighing in the kitchen. Feel the fabric on your shoulders. Notice cool at the nostrils, warmth on the exhale. The world is concrete, your courage belongs in it. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The wave is energy you can steer. Risk titration ladder keeps your windows from becoming cliffs. You design 4 rungs from your current comfort to your desired act. Each rung is a small exposure that stings but does not flood. If the act is present to leadership, rung 1 might be, record a 2-minute summary alone. Rung 2, send the recording to one trusted peer. Rung 3, present a 5-minute slice to your team. Rung 4, ask for 10 minutes on the leadership agenda. You climb with 4-4-6 before and after each rung. The afterbreath matters. It tells your body, "I lived." The body learns faster from survived exposure than from pep talks. You saw this in a real story. He had a portfolio worth showing and a lifetime habit of hiding. He would tinker until the work died under polish. One October, he decided to ladder. He wrote the act, share work publicly. Rung 1, post a process shot to a private group. Rung 2, DM a mentor asking for 1 note. Rung 3, email 3 prospects with a single image and a single sentence. "If this aligns with your next quarter, I can help." Rung 4, publish a case study with 1 mistake named and 1 lesson claimed. He paired each rung with a 2-minute courage window, timer, breath, count, click. The first post made his skin buzz so hard his hands felt like bees. He breathed through, walked 30 steps, and let the bees become warmth. By rung 4, the sensation was still there, but it spoke a different language, not danger, but importance. Scan your jaw, let it unhook a notch. Feel the backs of your knees. Notice whether your toes grip the floor like talons. If yes, release. Breathe 4-4-6. On the exhale, say, I can do small brave. Big brave is theater. Small brave is a building block. You'll add a decision tool because indecision is a fear costume. It's called the pre-moment rehearsal. You visualize the first 10 seconds of the act, not the fantasy outcome. 10 seconds is where bodies sabotage. That's where you train. If the act is a hard conversation, rehearse walking to the doorway, feeling the texture of the frame under your fingers, breathing once, and saying, do you have 5 minutes for something I care about? If the act is posting, rehearse the scroll, the tap, the caption's first 5 words, the press, the phone face down. 10 seconds. Your nervous system loves this because it can simulate without drowning. Performers do it before every entrance. It's not magical, it's practical. A scene in a fluorescent office. A junior engineer, Amina, needed to tell a senior that the architecture had a crack. Her stomach was a fist, her mouth tasted metallic. She ran a courage window, rehearsed the first 10 seconds, walk, knock, sentence. Knock, do you have 5? She named the weather. Buzz urged to soften the claim, story she'd be dismissed. She set her 5-word compass, clear, brief, kind, firm, forward. She walked. The conversation landed like a clean stone on a table. The senior listened and said, good catch. Amina walked back softer in the chest and wrote in her resets note, not about triumph, but about the physics. Window plus 10 seconds equals action. Check your breath. If it's high and short, put one hand on your belly and ask it to rise on the inhale like you're filling a shallow bowl. Hold lightly. Let the exhale leave like fog. Hear the micro click in your throat when you swallow. Your throat is where words pass. Let it soften now so it doesn't clench later. There's a saboteur that often arrives wearing the cape of ethics, perfectionism posing as standards. You'll disarm it with the good enough gate. Before you begin a courageous act, define in one sentence what good enough means for this round. 2 paragraphs, no perfect sentences. A direct ask without backstory. Ship version 0.7/5 with a notes section. You state it on an exhale while touching the table edge. Then you measure by that gate, not by the inner critic's moving targets. Standards matter, so does throughput. Throughput is what gives you data to actually raise standards in reality rather than in fantasy. An evening anecdote as familiar as streetlights. You opened a doc titled resignation letter that had lived in your drive like a ghost for months. Your chest compressed, your jaw made a vice. Old you would have scrolled job boards and called it progress. You ran a 2-minute window, timer, breath. Count by sevens, 193, 86, 79. At 0, you typed 3 sentences about the truth, gratitude, completion, next chapter, then stopped. Good enough, Gates said. 3 clear sentences. You didn't send it. You saved it and walked a hall, counting 6 on each exhale. You came back the next day and refined. When you finally shared it, your voice was steady because your body had rehearsed courage in pieces. Feel the air on your cheeks. It moves even if you don't. That movement is a sermon you can borrow. Things can change while you stay steady. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who does small brave on purpose. Fear isn't only in action, it's in anticipation. That's where the 24-hour courage contract helps. You make a public in private promise to future you with one line in your notes. By tomorrow at 10, I will send the calendar link. or by 3 p.m., I will ask for Tuesday. You then create an if-then for the trigger that usually derails you. If doubt shows as chest heat, then I run a 2-minute window. If I start rewriting the fifth sentence, then I ship at version 0.7. Implementation intentions shift behavior because they offload choice to a rule made in a calm state. Your amygdala hates ambiguity, rules love it. In a small, bright kitchen, a musician named René taped an index card above a kettle. If I check socials before practice, then I put the phone in the drawer and do 3 scales. He paired it with a courage window at 7:58 a.m. just before avoidance peaked. The card looked silly. It worked. 2 minutes, click, drawer, scales. He didn't win the symphony chair that month. He won the deeper prize, a body that trusted him to practice when fear hummed. Let's shape this now. Choose one act you've avoided. Name it in 7 words. Breathe 4-4-6. Write 4 rungs that climb to it, each doable today or this week. Set your good enough gate for rung 1. Start a 2-minute timer. Count by 3s. When it hits, perform the first inch, not the whole mile. After, do 30 slow steps, exhaling to 6, naming the weather you feel, buzz, heat, flutter, relief. Say out loud to the empty room, I lived. Your body needs to hear it. This rewires faster than mantras. Sensory check. Press your tongue lightly against the roof of your mouth, then let it fall. Notice how your shoulders follow. Smell the air, paper, citrus, rain, coffee. Feel the cool of a glass in your hand if you can pick one up. Every cue roots this work in touchable reality. The mind respects what the body can feel. Sometimes courage is saying less. The 2-sentence ask returns here, sharpened by the red thread. Under pressure, you will ramble to avoid the moment you actually ask. Instead, you breathe once, set your compass clear, brief, kind, firm, forward, and you say 2 sentences that contain the request and the next step. I'd like to lead the Q3 pilot. If you agree, I'll send the plan by Friday. Period. Silence. Boundary bridge holds you from over-explaining. Courage window gets you across the threshold. If a no comes, you don't collapse. You ask, what would make a yes easier next time? That question turns rejection into curriculum. The amygdala hates rejection. The prefrontal cortex loves curriculum. A hallway memory. You caught your reflection, jaw angled, eyes wary, and felt the old urge to walk past the door you needed to knock on. You smiled at the survival trick and chose differently. 2 minutes. Breath, knock, 2 sentences. You didn't die. You didn't even shake afterward as much as you expected. You put a small note in your phone, knocked at 2:11, felt heat, lived. 10 notes like that make a new story. Stories are how identity sticks. When the act is inward, admitting you're lonely, admitting you want, courage uses the same door. You breathe, you set a 10-second rehearsal, you speak 1 sentence to someone safe. I miss you, or I'm scared this won't work, or I need help with this part. The wave that hits is not shame, it is human weather. Mate it, label it, climb 1 rung. Often the world softens because you softened first. Feel your feet again. Spread your toes inside your shoes or on the floor and let them settle. Your calves are columns, your thighs are anchors. Your heart is a drummer that speeds up for the solo and steadies for the verse. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. On the exhale, picture a narrow bridge over a ravine. You step 1 foot, then the next. You don't sprint, you don't freeze, you move. A final story to set this into bone. A founder, Lena, needed to shut down a project that was draining money and morale. The story in her head, if I end it, I fail them. She ran a risk titration ladder, share data with a mentor, speak to 1 lead, speak to team, announce publicly with care. She set good enough gates for each. She used 2-sentence asks to request redeployment, not drama. She breathed before and after each meeting. The day after the announcement, she walked through the office and noticed something unexpected. The air felt lighter. People stood taller. The courage didn't only protect the company, it protected dignity, hers and theirs. She wrote in her resets note, "Courage conserved trust. That's the real ledger." You may still wait for the moment when you stop feeling afraid. It won't come. Instead, you'll notice different metrics: how quickly you return to breath, how cleanly you ask, how often you climb one rung more than last month, how your body's fear signature becomes a bell you ring to begin instead of a siren that makes you hide. You will still shake sometimes. You will still over-talk. Forgive the minutes. Practice the next one. Courage is not a character trait, it is a choreography. Before we close, do one more live run. Pick a draft message, a nagging ask, a door you've walked past. Set a 2-minute timer. Breathe, count. At 0, perform the first inch. Stop, stand, walk 30 steps. Name the weather. Whisper your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who does small brave on purpose. Feel the weight settle in your chest, not heavy like dread, heavy like a coat in winter that keeps you warm enough to keep walking. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Fear is a guest who knocks loud. You decide when to open, how far, and what small, honest act you take while it stands on the porch. That is power you can use today, in this body, in this room, with this breath. Setbacks are not verdicts. They are messages written in sensations first and only later in words. The difference between a spiral and a comeback is a practiced way of reading the message. Today you will learn to turn stumbles into traction without theatrics. The first tool is the after-action alchemy, a 3-minute debrief that extracts signal from the noise and hands it to your next move. The second is the one-day salvage plan, a tight container that stops a bad morning from colonizing your week. Together, they rebuild the contract between you and you. You'll keep breathing 446. You'll keep using anchor, name, choose. But now you'll add a ritual that converts regret into design. Shame talks in absolutes, design talks in steps. We'll choose steps. Begin in the place where stumbles announce themselves, the body. Failure, even the petty kind, wears a thermal signature. Your chest gets dense like wet wool. Your mouth dries while your palms go damp, a cruel duet. Your shoulders round as if protecting a pilot light from wind. Feel yourself exactly where you are. The air at your nostrils is cooler than the air leaving your lips. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Again, again. On the last exhale, press the pad of your thumb against the ridge of your index finger, anchor, and say silently, here. Naming the weather disarms the courtroom in your head. I'm noticing a heavy chest, heat in my face, and the thought that I blew it. Now you are a witness with a pen, not a defendant without a voice. After-action alchemy is a loop you can run in 3 minutes on paper or out loud. It has 3 beats that you speak like you're narrating a documentary with compassion. Beat 1, facts, as if a camera filmed it. The meeting started at 10, I had 8 slides, they asked for 5. I ran long by 6 minutes. Beat 2, forces, which means what was happening inside and around you. I slept 5 hours, the room was hot. I was afraid of seeming unprepared, so I overstuffed. Beat 3, fixes, which are behaviors you can repeat next time. Lead with outcome, cap slides at 5, run a timed rehearsal, ask the red thread question before I share. The loop ends with 1446 breath and a sentence to your nervous system. We learn here. The amygdala calms when it hears there is a plan. Plans sound like safety. A scene to anchor it. In a glass box of a room, you watched your project wobble and land badly. A colleague's eyebrow lifted, your stomach dropped as if the floor had become an elevator. Old reflex would be self-attack and a doom scroll to numb. You stood in a stairwell instead where the air moved. 3 minutes. Camera facts in a whisper. I spoke 12 minutes. They wanted 5. I answered one question defensively. Forces named without theater. I was underslept. I didn't run the deck once. I was trying to prove instead of inform. Fixes specific. Lead with the outcome. Ask one question before slide 1. Practice with a 5-minute timer. You breathed. The heaviness loosened a notch, not gone but workable. You walked back in and said one clean sentence. I can send a 5-slide cut by 3. Confidence didn't return as a mood. It returned as a sequence. Check your shoulders now. Let them fall the width of a coin. Feel the skin along your jaw. Let your tongue unclench and drop. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Smell the room, the faint paper, a citrus note, the quiet dust of an afternoon. Every sensory bead is a bead on a rosary you can move through when the mind wants to pray to catastrophe. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Your attention is a tool. We will use it like one. Setbacks often compound because you assign them to identity rather than circumstance. The science behind the shift is simple. When your brain encodes a failure as global and permanent, your stress chemistry stays elevated and your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, goes dim. When you encode it as specific and changeable, the chemistry eases and planning returns. After action, alchemy nudges your encoding towards specific and changeable. You strengthen that nudge with the phrase you learned earlier. I'm having the thought that. Pair it with a lens change called the 3 horizons. Horizon 1 is immediate repair. What turns this from bruise to lesson in the next hour? Horizon 2 is near-term iteration. What you'll try differently in the next similar moment. Horizon 3 is identity, the kind of person you become by practicing the fixes. You say all 3, out loud if possible, on a long exhale, so the words ride the parasympathetic wave. Try it now with something small that still stings. Perhaps you snapped at someone you like. Horizon 1, I'll send a clean apology by 5 with no justification. Horizon 2, next time I'll run micro switch before answering. Horizon 3, I'm the kind of person who repairs quickly and kindly. As you say the identity line, press your thumb to your wrist and feel the pulse you've been following this whole book. The pulse is indifferent to your drama. It only knows rhythm. You can choose rhythm. You'll add the one-day salvage plan because a bad morning loves to claim custody of an entire day. The plan is a micro-contract that runs from now until sleep and has 3 clauses. Clause 1 is the trim. You pick 2 commitments that remain sacred and drop or reschedule the rest without self-harm. Clause 2 is the reset. You run a 7-minute ultradian reset or a 5-minute soma fragment at a set time this afternoon. Clause 3 is the win. You choose one small, unambiguous action you will complete before dinner that signals momentum. Send the invoice. Clear the 3-flag inbox. Walk 20 minutes under sky. You write the plan in a single text to yourself or on paper where your eyes will fall. Your nervous system reads these as railings. It stops flailing because the staircase has edges again. A day in which salvage mattered, rain against the window, a missed train, a message that landed like a stone in your gut. You felt the familiar slide, the day is lost. You stood in socks on cold tile and let your toes tell you the truth about temperature. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Trim, keep the 2 p.m. review and the 5 p.m. call, move everything else. Reset, run Soma at 3:10, no excuses. Win, send the 2-paragraph summary by 4. You sent 2 reschedules that felt like admission of weakness until you breathed through the long exhale. At 4, you hit send. The day did not become magical. It became salvageable. That is more valuable than magic because it repeats. Notice your lower back. Let it sway and settle, as if a hand behind you invited your spine to trust the air. Feel the weight of your clothing on your shoulders. Let your eyes soften and widen your peripheral vision by a degree. This physiological widening is a message your ancient systems recognize. We are not cornered. From here, you can choose. There is a cousin to after-action alchemy for relational stumbles, the repair loop. It keeps connection from bleeding out while pride argues for delay. The loop is 4 moves: own, name, ask, commit. Own the impact in 1 sentence without excuses. I cut you off and that felt dismissive. Name the value you want to protect. What I value is clarity without steamrolling. Ask for what repairs. Would it help to hear my intent and then tell me what you needed? Commit to a next behavior. I'll pause and ask for your take before I add. You speak it when your breath is long enough to lengthen the words. You're not bargaining for absolution. You're building a bridge with your own materials. In a kitchen that smelled like coffee and toast, you used it. Voices had gotten sharp, your cheeks were still hot. You washed a mug you didn't need to wash to buy a breath. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Own without ornament. I cut you off and it landed badly. Value named. I want to be clear and still leave room. Ask specific. Would it help to try again for 2 minutes each? Commit behavioral. I'll set a timer and I'll listen first. The conversation changed topography. Not instantly, not like a snapped finger, but like a river redirected by a series of placed stones. You'll also meet the emotional debt ledger, a quiet tool for when you keep carrying small hurts because you don't know where to put them. Emotional debt accrues interest in tension, sarcasm, and avoidance. The ledger asks you to record, once a week, 2 debts you can clear with a repair and 1 you'll let dissolve by naming it only to yourself. For each, you write the lightest possible repair move, a 2-line message, a boundary spoken, a gratitude in shadow voiced. You then pick a time and do 1. Completing a repair turns a weight into a weight lift. The body learns that carrying is not the only option. Putting down is real. Scan your hands. If they are cold, rub them until warmth blooms and place 1 over your sternum, 1 over your belly. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper your identity cue so softly only your bones hear it. I'm the kind of person who learns fast and repairs clean. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The emotion can be angry or sad or embarrassed. The awareness can still choose to send an apology at 3:15. Setbacks often hide a decision you postponed. That's where the decision triage matrix steadies you. It has only 2 axes, impact and reversibility. High-impact reversible decisions go first, move, test, iterate. Low-impact reversible decisions get batched, decide once, then stop thinking. High-impact irreversible decisions get a pause and a 4-4-6 plus a call to a sounding board. Low-impact irreversible decisions are rare. If you find one, simplify until it is. You sketch this on scrap paper when the day feels like a tangle. Put each item in a quadrant, circle the top 2 from the first box, and set a 2-minute courage window to act. Deciding reduces background load. The load you reduce becomes attention you can spend on repair. An afternoon in a loud office made this obvious. You had 5 half decisions squatting in your brain: approve a tiny budget, choose a meeting time, draft a response to a critique, pick a vendor, sign a form. The critique felt huge, so you stalled on everything. You drew the matrix in the corner of a notebook. Budget and form were low-impact reversible, batch and finish. Vendor and meeting time were medium, reversible, set a red thread and choose. The response draft was high-impact but reversible, write first, share with a peer. You ran a 2-minute window, counted by 3s, and cleared the first 2 in 6 minutes. The relief in your shoulders was not random, it was physics. Less load, more breath, better brain. When the setback is inside your own habits, a week of scattered evenings, a return to doom scrolling, a string of broken focus blocks, you will use trigger-to-task transmutation. You look for the earliest physical cue in the chain and attach a micro-task to that cue that makes relapse harder. If the cue is the recliner after dinner, the task is to place a book on the seat and put the remote in a drawer before you eat. If the cue is opening a certain app, the task is to move it off your home screen and park a Notes app in its place, with a written red thread staring you down. You're not muscling willpower. You're changing the choice architecture so the easy path helps you. The nervous system praises you for this with less conflict chemistry. Less conflict chemistry means fewer stories about being a lost cause. Feel your breath again. On the inhale, widen the ribs sideways more than up. On the hold, soften your eyes. On the exhale, purse your lips just enough to feel the cool stream narrow and lengthen. If your mind coughs up a sentence about your flaw, label it with the phrase and set it to the side like mail you'll sort at 4. Your flaws don't drive. They ride in the back seat and point at trees. You drive. A story about a bigger stumble. Nadia missed a deadline that mattered, not life and death, but career shaping. She had good reasons and many of them. Her chest felt like a junk drawer someone slammed shut. She took a walk because the room had become a tunnel, 30 steps exhaling to 6. After action alchemy in the Notes app under a tree. Facts. Draft delivered late by 2 days, missing 2 figures. Forces. Underestimated analysis time. Avoided asking for help. Slept badly. Fixes pad analysis by 30%. Ask ops for data prep. Schedule a rehearsal run. Horizons. Repair, iteration, identity. Repair, own it to lead, send clean apology with plan today. Iteration, practice 5-minute version tomorrow. Identity, I am the kind of person who learns fast and does repair before rumination. She breathed and sent a 2-paragraph note that did not beg or barter. The reply was firm and human. The next quarter, she hit the window with room. The old story would have made this a referendum on her worth. The new practice made it a revision. You may worry that all this analysis will make you clinical and less alive. It won't. It will make you kinder because you'll stop punishing with generalities and start changing with specifics. The body cannot move on a foggy order. Do better is fog. Lead with outcome, 5 slides, timed rehearsal is a road. You become more alive when your roads are clear because you can move. Let's practice live. Think of a stumble from the last 7 days, not the deepest wound, just one with a small sting. Breathe 4-4-6. Anchor thumb to wrist. Name the weather. Whisper the camera facts. Name 2 forces. Write 2 fixes. Speak 1 horizon, 1 repair you will do today. Set a 2-minute courage window now. Count down by 7s and do the first inch. Draft the first sentence. Fill the subject line. Open the calendar and block 10 minutes for the repair. Notice your body when you do the inch. The exhale leaves smoother. Your shoulders shift their angle by a degree. That degree is not symbolic. It is literal physics you can feel. There's a feeling after a stumble when you want to disappear. Disappearing builds mold, repair builds light. When disappearance tugs, you'll run the 90-second weather rule. Breath, 3 tracks, count to 90. Then you'll deploy the 1-sentence rejoiner, a bridge back to contact without drama. I realized I missed the mark, here's how I'm fixing it. Or I spoke sharply, I'm sorry, I want to try again. Your voice may shake, let it. Shaking is energy leaving a body. It does not mean you're weak. It means you're human and alive. Check the smallest sound again, the fridge hum, a car 2 streets over, the whisper of your own sleeve as you move your arm. That sound will be there whether you nail the next thing or not. The world is larger than your stumble. This is not minimizing, it is right-sizing. Right-sized events are manageable. Manageable events receive steps. Steps are what you are good at now. You'll finish by building the comeback cue, a micro-object that links your repairs to memory. A coin in your pocket you rub when you choose to repair instead of ruminate. A bracelet you spin once before you send the after-action fixes. A sticky note with a single word, return, on the inside of your notebook. You use it at the end of each after-action alchemy loop. Touch, breathe, identity line. Over weeks, the object will become impregnated with the feeling of clean return. Your body will relax when you touch it, the way a musician relaxes when they pick up an instrument they know. An evening on a bus, lights flickering across faces like slow waves. You replayed a moment you wished you could redo. The bus smelled like rain-soaked coats and metal. You took out the coin you'd chosen as a cue, cool against your fingers, smooth from other people's lives. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. After-action alchemy in your head. One-day salvage plan, move the call, keep the one thing, run Soma at 8, send the repair line at 9. You watched the city slide by and felt your chest shift from stone to something like bread dough, still heavy, but pliable, ready to change with heat and time. There is one more layer, forgiveness as mechanics, not proclamation. Forgiveness is not a balloon you release. It is a set of repeated acts that prove to your brain that you are learning. Each clean repair, each salvage day, each decision triage shifts the ledger from deficit to credit. The day the ledger crosses to black, you'll notice it in your breath first. It will leave easy. You will forget to rehearse old failures before you sleep. You will meet new ones with a practiced economy. This is not because you became perfect. It is because you became a reliable partner to yourself. Place your palm on your chest and one on your belly. Feel the beat under bone, patient and untheatrical. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper, I'm the kind of person who returns quickly and learns fast. Let the words vibrate against the bones of your rib cage so they become physical. Words that touch bones stick. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The emotion can be loud. The awareness can still be kind and competent. When this session ends, run one tiny after-action alchemy on something you want to improve before tomorrow. Then write a one-day salvage plan if today has gone sideways. Trim 2, reset once. Win 1, send 1 repair or make 1 fix. Touch your comeback cue. Walk 30 steps, counting 6 on your exhales. If you feel the urge to narrate your worth, give that urge a place to sit while you move your hands. The work of your life wants your hands, not your verdicts. You will stumble again. You will also return again faster. At some point you will notice the stumble itself becoming a quiet teacher rather than a loud judge. When that happens, breathe. Thank your nervous system for learning. Thank your attention for staying. Thank your identity for being a place you can come back to and trust. Then do the next small wise action. That is the whole path, disguised in 1,000 moments like this one. The voice in your head has more power than any critic you'll meet in a boardroom. It can make the floor tilt before a single word is spoken. You don't silence that voice by shouting it down. You change the job you've given it. Today you'll train the inner drill sergeant into a kind coach, the sort that demands excellence without cruelty. 2 tools make this practical instead of sentimental. The first is the C2C transmute, critic to coach in 3 moves: catch, convert, commit. The second is the IFL line, intent, fact, lesson, a one-breath sentence that keeps you honest without letting shame drive. You'll braid both with the breath that has followed you through these pages: 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. The goal is not to feel good. It's to become trustworthy to yourself, because trust is the fuel that keeps you moving when the lights flicker. Start in the body where the critic lands first. A cold prickle along the scalp, a clamp at the base of the throat, a pressure behind the eyes like unshed weather. Notice the room, the intensity of light on the nearest surface, the actual temperature grazing your forearms, the sound, faint or intrusive, resting in the air. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Again, again. On the last exhale, anchor by touching the edge of your chair or the ridge of your wrist and say, here. Name the weather, tight jaw, urge to hide, the thought, what's wrong with me? You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also not the insult that just drove by your mind. Now you'll change what that voice does for a living. C2C transmute begins with catch. You hear the critic as a specific sentence, not a vibe. You always mess up first impressions. You're behind again. They're bored with you. Precision matters because you can't convert a fog. Then convert. You turn the attack into a coach's cue using 2 constraints, present tense and behavior-based language. Turn your shoulders toward them and ask one question. Set a 10-minute beachhead now. Lead with the outcome in 1 sentence. The convert step avoids character verdicts and asks for movement. Finally, commit. You perform the smallest wise action inside 60 seconds so your nervous system experiences the shift, not just hears about it. Breath buys time, time buys choice, choice retrains the voice. You tested this at a doorway that always used to steal your courage. A networking event, the room lit too bright, a smear of laughter at the edges. The voice slipped in, "You're awkward, don't try." You caught it as a line of text in your mind's eye. You breathed 446 and converted. Stand tall, breathe low, ask one person, "What's keeping you busy lately?" You committed, 3 steps forward, palm on the doorframe, anchor, then you asked the question. The answer wasn't magical. It was human, the voice didn't vanish. It changed tone, less prosecuting attorney, more sideline coach calling a play. You stayed longer than planned. Driving home, your chest felt not inflated, but steadied, like a boat that has found the rhythm of the wake. Pause now and check the map of your face. The muscles around your eyes can soften by a degree, let them. Let the tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. Feel the fabric on your collarbone, the way gravity tethers you to the chair. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6, and on the out-breath say, coach, not critic. The words ride the breath like a flag laid gently over a loud drum. The IFL line locks the conversion into language even under pressure. Intent, fact, lesson. Intent acknowledges the why without pleading. I wanted to help. I was trying to be thorough. I wanted to be seen. Fact anchors you to the camera's view. I sent 3 paragraphs when 2 lines would do. I missed the window by a day. I interrupted twice. Lesson points forward in 1 behavior. Next time I'll ask for the 1 outcome before I write. I'll pad the analysis by 30%. I'll count a slow 6 before I jump in. Say the IFL line on a long exhale. It cleans shame from the circuit while keeping standards. Use it with yourself first, then in repairs with others. It's not a script, it's a stance. A scene at a kitchen table. You promised a friend you'd help edit a grant and then stumbled through a week of fire drills. You sent edits at midnight the night before it was due, half as careful as you wanted. The inner voice loaded the cannon. You ran breath, then the IFL line. I wanted to help. I sent edits late and missed 2 sections. Next time I'll book 1 hour the day I agree and ask for the parts you want most. You sent a 2-line repair with that shape. Your friend replied, thanks, that framing helps. Let's do a pass next week for the next round. The critic didn't have much to chew on. The coach nodded and set a calendar block. Touch your sternum lightly. Feel the vibration of your own voice if you whisper a single word, steady. Notice how your chest answers back with a subtle hum. You are an instrument. Breath tunes it. The C2C transmute and IFL line are sheet music for the moments when the song of self-respect goes off-key. There's a second lever that strengthens the coach's voice: compassionate constraint. Compassion without constraint coddles, constraint without compassion crushes. Together, they build capacity. You phrase it like this: of course I feel X, and still I'll do Y. Of course validates the biology, and still reasserts agency. Of course I feel dread, and still I'll run a 10-minute beachhead. Of course I feel embarrassed, and still I'll send the repair line by 3. Say it on a 6-count exhale, so the words arrive to a body ready to receive them. The vagus nerve likes this grammar because it doesn't call you a liar for feeling. It calls you forward for acting. You'll add micro drills so these aren't concepts but muscle. The two you'll start with are the mirror neuron rehearsal and the kind audit. Mirror neuron rehearsal is a 20-second visualization where you imagine watching a friend you respect in your exact situation. You see them breathe, convert the critic, and take the first inch. You then mimic their first movement. The brain learns by watching. Give it a clean model. The kind audit happens at night in 3 lines in your resets note. 1 C2C you ran, 1 IFL you spoke, 1 place the critic still shouted. You end with the 5-word compass for tomorrow: calm, brief, honest, forward, warm. Over a week, you'll see the coach's vocabulary grow. Let's catch a work story where this changed the arc. Terrell led a small team and hated delivering tough feedback. His inner voice turned feedback into identity verdicts: you're cruel, or you avoid hard things. The result was either 2 soft notes that solved nothing or delayed conversations that turned small bumps into potholes. He learned C2C before a one-on-one. The critic whispered, "You're going to hurt her." Catch. Convert, lead with outcome. 1 example, ask for her view, set 1 next step. Commit. He wrote a single line red thread on the top of his pad and breathed 446. In the meeting, when a defensive sentence rose in his own throat, he ran an IFL on the fly. "I want you to grow. I drifted into vague last time. Today I'll name 1 behavior and ask how I can support." The conversation felt clean. She walked out with a plan. He walked out with a chest that felt like it had air in it, not smoke. Notice the air right now by your ears. It has a weight, a temperature, a motion you can catalog without poetry. Hear a distant sound. If none, hear the hum behind the quiet. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. The coach's voice often arrives at the exact volume of that hum: quiet, consistent, uninterested in drama. That's who you practice listening for. The inner critic feeds on comparison, and comparison is a RAS problem. What your filter highlights becomes your reality. You'll build an anti-compare cue to retrain the filter. Each time you catch yourself stacking your chapter 3 next to someone's chapter 20, you whisper, "Different games, same craft." Then ask your red thread question: right now, the most useful thing is. This pulls attention from scoreboard to practice floor. Pair it with 1 tactile move, thumb on index knuckle, so your body associates the phrase with a shift in state. Over time, the cue becomes a reflex. The voice that once pointed outward begins to look inward for the next inch you can actually move. Another story, this time in love. Sam and Davy had the same fight in different outfits. He would withdraw when stressed. She would chase with questions that sounded like prosecution. The inner critics ran the script. He doesn't care. She's impossible. One night, sitting on a rug with the smell of laundry in the air, They tried a joint C2C, each wrote their critic line. Each converted it into a coach cue for the next 30 minutes. Sam text, I need 20 minutes, back at 9, then actually come back. Davy, say, I want to understand, can you tell me the one feeling underneath, then listen. They breathed together, 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. They practiced the moves like a dance step. The fight didn't vanish. The tone changed. The floor felt steadier, like the rug had a pad under it now. Your hands can learn this even if your mind protests. Place a cold glass or a cool spoon against the pulse at your wrist for 10 seconds. Feel the temperature exchange, the small change in beat. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Whisper, of course, and still, with your own words. Your biology hears you being on your own side and becomes less interested in sprinting away from the moment. Sometimes the critic hides behind humor. You undercut yourself before anyone else can, calling it self-awareness. It's self-sabotage with good timing. When you hear yourself make a self-deprecating joke that leaves a taste of metal, run a joke to join shift. You take the energy of the joke and redirect it into connection or clarity. I'm a disaster with calendars, becomes I double booked once. I keep a strict ledger now, give me a time that works. Breath first, then words. You haven't made yourself small to be liked. You've made yourself clear to be trusted. Check the smell of the room again. There's likely a note you've missed, a hint of soap, paper, the ghost of last night's dinner. Attend to it. That attention is the opposite of the critic's scatter. It is the coach's presence. From presence, the next move is small and doable, not grand and brittle. You will also build a practice called the evidence jar. It's literal if you like, an actual jar with slips, or digital, a note where you dump a one-line proof each day that the coach exists. Ran C2C at 10:03, asked one question, meeting turned. IFL at 14:20 with self, wrote repair sent. Anti-compare Q at gym, did 6 sets. The critic will try to argue abstractly. The jar replies with receipts. Once a week, you pour them out and read aloud 5. Your body hears the record of being someone you can count on. The back of your neck warms. Your breath leaves longer than it enters. Identity shifts stick when the evidence is tactile. An afternoon in a sunlit room, dust sparkles turning in a slow column. You missed a pitch. The critic arrived in full robes. You stood, pressed your thumb to the table, breathed 446 and ran IFL aloud to an empty room. I wanted to help. I buried the outcome in backstory. Next time I'll open with one-line value and ask for the constraint. You wrote that in the jar. You didn't feel triumphant. You felt competent. Competence tastes like clean water after a salty meal. The body takes it and does not clap. There's a shadow fear under this work, that kindness will make you lazy. It won't. The coach is kind because cruelty wastes energy. The coach is also exacting. The coach says, breathe, then do the smallest wise action now and expects you to do it. When you don't, the coach doesn't call you names. The coach resets the drill. Reset without contempt is how elite performers train. It is how you will train. One more sensory check. Let your eyes land on something green or textured, plant, fabric, a chipped mug. Feel the grain with your fingertips if you can. Hear the low hum in the room and the highest faint sound beyond it. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. On the exhale, say your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who speaks to myself like a coach and then acts. Feel the sentence vibrate against ribs and spine. Words through bone are hard to argue with. Before we close, run a live C2C on a fresh moment. Think of the task, the call, the conversation you've been circling. Catch the critic's exact sentence. Convert it into one behavior. Commit by doing the first inch inside 60 seconds. Open the doc, type the first 7 words, Dial and let it ring twice. Walk to the doorway and say, "Do you have 5 minutes?" After speak an IFL line to lock learning. "I wanted progress. I took the first inch. Next I'll set a 10-minute beachhead at 2. Write one line in the evidence jar. Count 30 slow steps, exhaling to 6. Feel the floor roll under each footfall. The critic lives in future catastrophes. The coach lives in footsteps. If the critic returns tonight, it will. Give it a job it can't refuse, scanning for the smallest opportunity tomorrow to breathe, name, and choose. It will find one at 9, 10, or 11:47, or during dishes when the water warms your hands. Let it point. Then let the coach call the play. This is not about never doubting again. It's about refusing to outsource your tone to a voice that has never helped you keep a promise. You can keep promises now, not because you are stern, but because you are steady. Feel your pulse, slow, patient, no commentary. That is your model. Beat, 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 no insults, no flattery, just fidelity. Meet yourself with the same. Breathe 4-4-6. Anchor, name, choose, coach, repeat. The weather inside will still change. You remain the sky. Some days you feel like you're living 5 degrees off your true north. Not wrong, just slightly misaimed, saying yes when you meant maybe, laughing when your ribs wanted silence, nodding while your stomach tightened. That tilt costs more than you notice. It burns attention, fogs decisions, and leaves a thin film of regret on moments that should taste clean. Today is about alignment. The quiet power of matching what you value with what you actually do while the world is watching and while no one is. We'll make it tangible with 2 tools, the value-to-verb mapper and the say-do integrity loop. The mapper turns abstract values into behaviors you can perform in 60 seconds. The loop is a day-long choreography that keeps your promises honest without turning you into a rigid statue. You'll keep the 4-4-6 breath. You'll keep anchor, name, choose. Now you'll add a compass you can feel. Begin by arriving in your body where misalignment announces itself before your mind writes a paragraph. There's a faint pressure under your collarbones, as if a shirt tag is scratching the skin from the inside. Your throat feels a size too small. Your breath skates chest high. Let the chair hold you, and let the floor tell you it won't leave. Inhale through your nose to 4, hold to 4, exhale through pursed lips to 6. Again, unhurried. On the third exhale, press your thumb to the ridge of your index finger, anchor and whisper here. Name the weather, tight throat, urge to agree to end the tension, thought that saying no makes me difficult. That sentence does not trap you. It frees your hands to build a different move. The value-to-verb mapper begins with a single value spoken in plain language, not as a slogan. Pick one: clarity, kindness, excellence, freedom, presence. Now translate it into 3 verbs your nervous system can perform. Clarity becomes ask, summarize, decide. Kindness becomes pause, soften, check in. Excellence becomes simplify, rehearse, review. Presence becomes breathe, look, land. Freedom becomes choose, decline, design. You're not making a list to frame on a wall. You're authoring tiny behaviors your body can do under voltage. Then you pair the verbs with a scene you actually live. If your value is clarity and the scene is a team huddle, your verbs are ask one outcome, summarize in 1 line, decide the smallest next step. You write those words on a sticky that your eyes will fall on at the doorway. The mapper takes a cloud and condenses it into rain. A story to see this work. On a Wednesday with light the color of old brass, Renata walked into a client room that always tilted her. The client loved volume, Renata loved precision. She would leave these meetings buzzing with a sugar high of consensus and then crash when the work turned to soup. She tried the mapper. Value, clarity, verbs, ask, summarize, decide. Before the meeting, she breathed 446 3 times, felt her shoulders drop by a coin's width, and touched the doorframe anchor. In the room, she asked, "What's the one outcome you most need by Friday?" She summarized. "So the outcome is a 3-slide brief with risk mitigation." She decided, "We'll send version 0.7 by 5, refine by noon tomorrow." The air changed. After she stood by the elevator and felt her ribs expand all the way around like a belt loosening. The room hadn't become kinder. She had become aligned. Check your senses. The air around your ears has weight. Let your attention sit there for a breath. Your hands hold a temperature, cool back, warm palm. The light in the room lands on one surface with more insistence than the others. Let your gaze rest there for a heartbeat. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Identity is not a paragraph. It's a set of practiced sensations tied to practiced verbs. The second tool is the say, do integrity loop, a 4-step cycle you run from morning to night. Intend, declare, do, debrief. Intend is private. You choose one value and 2 verbs you will perform today in specific scenes. Declare is small and public in private. You text yourself or a trusted partner 1 line, clarity at 11, ask, summarize, kindness at 6, pause, check-in. Do is obvious. You perform the verb in the scene even if your pulse ticks up. Debrief is a 90-second evening loop where you run a gentle audit. Where did I match? Where did I miss? What verb will I move up earlier tomorrow? You are not building a cage. You're building a path you can actually walk. You tested the loop on a day that wanted to steal you. Morning meeting with a stakeholder who loved to bait, afternoon presentation, evening conversation you'd been avoiding at home. Intend, presence and kindness. Verbs, breathe, look, land, pause, soften, declare one text to yourself. Do, in the meeting, you let your eyes soften to widen your peripheral vision and you placed your palm on the table, land, before speaking. In the presentation, you breathed a 446 just before the first sentence and let your voice drop a half step. In the evening, you paused literally, set the glass down before answering and softened your shoulders before your mouth. Debrief. You wrote 2 lines, matched at 11, missed at 3 when the question felt like a trap, matched at 8 after a shaky start. You slept not because the day was perfect, but because your tone with yourself was clean. There's an edge case where alignment hurts because truth has a cost. That is where the 1-degree honesty comes in. You don't have to rip doors off hinges to be authentic. You can turn the knob by 1 degree. 1-degree honesty is the smallest truthful sentence that moves the moment forward. In a project status, I'm at 70% and need help with data. In a friendship, I want to be here and I'm stretched thin this week. In your own head, I'm avoiding because I want it to be perfect. You speak it on a 6-count exhale so your body doesn't turn the words into a weapon. Honesty at 1 degree is a hinge. Too often, we think the only options are 0 or 90. Pause and check your jaw. Let the hinges soften, the tongue drop from the roof. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Smell the faintest scent in the room, paper, rain, soap. Your system reads these as safety. From safety, your words land with less ricochet. Another live story. Dion, a developer, promised a Friday deliverable and watched Thursday dissolve in emergency fixes. Old pattern, promise anyway, sprint into midnight, resent everyone. He ran 1-degree honesty through the mapper. Value, excellence. Verbs, simplify, rehearse, review. He breathed 446, pressed his thumb to his wrist, anchor, and wrote a 2-line message. I'm at 70%. If I ship by 5, quality drops. 1-degree honest plan, ship 0.7 by 5, tighten to 0.9 by 11 tomorrow. He expected a reprimand. He got alignment. Send 0.7 by 5. We'll set review at 10. He walked to the sink and rinsed a glass, watching the water tunnel cool against his knuckles. The sensation pinned the moment into memory. Misalignment also hides in the way you schedule. Your calendar is an autobiography written in blocks. You don't need a full rewrite. You need a micro-alignment audit. For 1 week, before you accept an invite or add a task, you ask, which value does this serve? Then you add a verb to the calendar title. Budget review, clarity, decide. 1-1 kindness, check-in. Design draft, excellence, simplify. The verb disciplines the hour. At the end of each day, you breathe once and scan the titles. If too many blocks have no value or verbs, tomorrow gets a trim. This is not aesthetic, it is structural. Structure changes feelings. Feel your lower back, let it sway by a centimeter and settle like warm dough. Notice a far sound, traffic, a fridge, a pipe in the wall. Let your eyes find the farthest point in the room and then the closest detail on your own hand. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. You are teaching your organism that alignment is not a speech. It is a posture with breath underneath. There is a trap in values work, using values like armor to avoid discomfort. I value honesty, spoken like a hammer. You won't do that. You will use the edges and center protocol. The center is the non-negotiable value. The edges are the humane ways you'll carry it. Center, clarity. Edges, timing, tone, and one question. That becomes, I'll be clear, and I'll choose a time with privacy, soften my voice, and ask what matters most. Center, boundaries. Edges, gratitude, alternative, warmth. I'll say no, and I'll thank you for thinking of me, offer what I can do, and keep my tone kind. This keeps your value from becoming a weapon you swing in panic. In a quiet office with the smells of dust and cardboard, Yara had to end a vendor relationship. She mapped center and edges. Center, stewardship. Edges, appreciation, specificity, redeploy. She ran 3 slow 4-4-6 breaths, then spoke. We appreciate the work so far. Stewardship means we need a different pace. We're ending after this sprint and will pay through the close. I can introduce you to a partner who fits your style. The room didn't crack. Later, walking to the elevator, she noticed her feet strike the floor in even rhythms, heel to toe, not the frantic tap-tap of adrenaline. Your inner yes and no get clearer when your body learns a signal. Build the 2-point check, sternum and gut. Before you accept, you press 2 fingers lightly at the sternum and 2 at the lower belly and breathe 1-4-4-6. If the sternum feels heavy and the belly hollows, you're about to trade yourself for approval. If the sternum feels warm and the belly steady, your yes will stand in wind. This is not mysticism, it's interoception, the body's sense of its own interior. You've been reading outside weather all your life. Now you read inside weather too. Check your sternum now with 2 fingers, not hard, just present. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Whisper your identity cue. I am the kind of person who lives my values as verbs. Let the words vibrate against bone. Words that touch bone get filed where it matters. Sometimes alignment means quitting a tiny habit that stains the day. You'll use the in-moment swap. When you catch yourself sliding into an old, misaligned groove, doom scroll, sarcastic comment, overpromising, you swap a verb that matches your value in under 15 seconds. Scroll becomes stand and sip water. Sarcasm becomes ask one curious question. Overpromising becomes name the limit and offer the next step. Speak the swap on a long exhale so your body feels the shift. Of course, I want the quick hit, and still I'll stand and sip. The of course and still grammar you learned is a bridge here too. A late-night memory. You stood by a dimming screen, eyes grainy. The critic whispered. The thumb hovered. You exhaled to 6 and swapped scroll for stand and sip. Cool water touched the back of your throat like a small rescue. You turned the lamp off with a slow click and felt the room grow quiet in layers. It was not dramatic. It was aligned. Alignment often feels like the absence of friction rather than the presence of fireworks. There's a relational layer to alignment that protects closeness. Enter the agreement reset. Agreements decay because assumptions creep. You run a 5-minute reset with someone you work or live with. What are we each assuming? What value are we protecting? What verb will we each do? You start with breath so tone stays human. I'm assuming you'll answer quick pings. I'm protecting momentum. I'll batch my requests at noon. I'm assuming you'll be available after dinner. I'm protecting rest. I'll set office hours and post them. 2 sentences each, maximum. Then you try it for a week. The reset is maintenance, not court. Pause and feel the air at the top curve of your ear. Nearly no one notices it. You can. Let your shoulders drop as if they belong to gravity. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. You are building a life that runs on subtlety because subtlety is sustainable. You might fear that too much alignment makes you rigid. The opposite. Misalignment makes you brittle. Alignment makes you flexible because your moves are coherent. To test flexibility, you'll practice the stretch permission. Once a day, you deliberately choose a small discomfort that serves a value, speaking up once more in a meeting to protect clarity, leaving 2 minutes early to protect presence with family, asking for a different timeline to protect excellence. You breathe, you map the verbs, and you take the step. Then you tell your nervous system exactly what happened. Stretch done, value served. The sentence lands in your body like a stamp. Over weeks, the stamps make a passport. Your identity travels. At a cafe that smelled like citrus and burnt sugar, you tried stretch. The barista got your order wrong, old you would drink it and simmer. Value, clarity, and kindness. Verbs, ask, soften. You breathed and said, "Hey, I think this is the latte. Could we swap for the cappuccino?" Smile, softened shoulders. She apologized and swapped. The world didn't move, but inside you something did. A small rack clicked into the next slot. You are allowed to ask. You can do it without becoming someone you don't want to be. Before we close, put the mapper and the loop in your pocket with a micro practice. Pick one value for the next hour. Write 3 verbs. Choose one scene you'll live. Breathe 4-4-6, touch a surface, anchor and whisper your identity line. When the scene arrives, perform one verb on purpose. Later, run a 90-second debrief, match miss tomorrow's move. Add one line to your evidence jar, clarity at 2:07, asked one outcome. This isn't show, it's signal. You are teaching your brain to see you as dependable, and dependable is where confidence sleeps at night. Notice your feet. Spread your toes inside your shoes or against the floor and let them settle. Feel the curve of your spine against the chair. Listen for the farthest sound and the nearest one, the world outside and the fabric on your sleeve. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. If a thought arrives dressed as an accusation, you're still faking. Meet it with 1 degree of honesty. I'm practicing. Practicing is a holy word. It forgives and expects at the same time. A final story to set this into the grain. A marketing lead named Olma was great at slide decks and bad at saying what she believed in rooms full of titles. Her value was courage, but her verbs were frozen. She mapped courage to prepare, ask, claim. Before the next review, she rehearsed a 1-minute opening. In the room, she asked, "Before we dive into copy, are we aligned that the outcome is fewer clicks, more qualified time?" When the room hedged, she claimed one line, I recommend cutting 2 channels for 2 weeks to get clean data. She felt heat crawl her neck and breathe with it like a wave. After she walked the long hall, fingers touching the cool rail, and said aloud, "Stretch done, value served." That sentence is how a person becomes someone they recognize. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also the cartographer of your days, drawing lines that line up with the person you are becoming. Values are not poems. They are verbs you perform while your heart beats and your breath travels and your hands shake a little and still write the email, ask the question, say the no, offer the next step. The world will continue to move. So will you, one aligned inch at a time. Legacy isn't a statue anyone builds for you. It's the residue of your daily tone on other people's nervous systems and on your own. You've learned to calm, to focus, to ask cleanly, to hold lines, to recover, to act while your heart drums, to repair, to coach yourself, to align verbs with values. Now you'll stitch it into something durable, the long arc. Today is about continuity, how you keep showing up when novelty fades, when results lag, when the path bends without signs. You'll do it with 2 tools that make the future feel touchable. The first is the Future You Backcast, a simple way to pull guidance from the person you're becoming and turn it into today's smallest move. The second is the Identity Bank, a ledger where you deposit specific behaviors as proof you are who you say you are, and withdraw confidence when doubt gets loud. Together, they give you patience without passivity and urgency without panic. As always, you'll breathe 4-4-6, you'll anchor, name, choose, and you'll let your body be the room where decisions are made kindly and firmly. Begin with sensation, because time travels through flesh. Notice the temperature at your forearms, the slight draft that skims the hairs there. Feel the chair's pressure under your sit bones, the particular angle your feet make in your shoes. Inhale to 4 and picture air sliding cool along the inside of your nose. Hold to 4 and let your shoulders drop 1/2 centimeter. Exhale to 6 and feel your ribs fold like a book closing softly. On the tail of the breath, touch the edge of the table, anchor, and say, "Here." Name the weather, restless chest, urge to rush, thought that if it hasn't happened by now, it won't. The thought is weather, you are the sky. From this sky, you can look far and still step close. Future You Backcast is a 3-step conversation in plain language. Step 1, you choose a horizon and a scene 6 or 12 months from now, not a fantasy montage, but a specific ordinary moment that proves the arc, leading a calm kickoff, finishing an exam with breath to spare, tucking a child into bed with patience after a tough day, closing your laptop at 6 because your boundaries held. Step 2, you ask Future You one question. What 3 habits bought this moment? You listen with your body, not for slogans but for verbs. Future You will say things like, "I kept a 10-minute beachhead after lunch. I ran Soma at 3. I asked one outcome before every meeting." Step 3, you backcast 1 rung to today and pick the smallest wise action that belongs to those habits. You don't try to live 12 months in 1 afternoon. You place 1 tile you'd like to see repeated. Try it now. Close your eyes unless you're moving. See yourself 6 months ahead in a small, real scene, walking out of a review where you spoke once, clearly, or setting your phone in a bowl at 9 and turning to a human with full attention, or jogging a short loop breathing steady, no performance, just presence. Ask, what 3 habits bought this? Let the answers arrive without decoration. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6, while you translate them into today. At 2:30, beachhead for 10 on the outline. At 3:10, Soma. At 5:55, threshold ritual to close. Write 1 line on paper. Today I place the tile, 2:30 beachhead. Identity is mosaics, not murals. The mosaic grows by small stones, not applause. A story to make it warm. In a company with hallways that smelled like carpet glue and coffee, Matteo wanted to lead without becoming the kind of leader who burned his voice out and other people's patience with it. He pictured a scene 12 months out, a Q4 planning meeting that felt like a well-timed rehearsal rather than a scramble. He asked future Matteo, "What bought this?" The answer wasn't epic. Beachhead after lunch, window widen when stakes rose, boundary bridge on scope creep, and the workday shutdown. He wrote one tile for that day, 4 p.m. workday shutdown, one line for tomorrow, close laptop at 6. He ran 3-4-4-6 breaths at 5:55, touched the doorframe anchor and said, "Workday closed, I'll meet you at 9. He kept that tile 4 days a week. 3 months later, when a fire hit, his system had slack. He wasn't calm because he's special. He was calm because he had backcast and laid stones. Check your neck and jaw. Release the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Feel the back of your throat widen. Inhale to 4 as if your ribs could open sideways like shutters. Hold to 4 and smell the room, paper, soap, rain. Exhale to 6 and feel the muscles along your spine dial down 1 notch. You're not wasting time. You're priming the channel through which continuity flows. Now the identity bank. You already keep mental ledgers of failure. You will keep a ledger of fidelity. The bank has 3 accounts: calm under pressure, clean language, and craft in motion. Rename them to match your arc. Each deposit is a specific behavior stamped with time. 9:12 ran 446 plus ANC before replying. 11:03 boundary bridge limit plus next step. 2:40 beachhead wrote 3 messy bullets. 6:58 threshold ritual phone in bowl. You log 2 to 5 lines a day, no poetry, no judgment. On days when doubt tries to liquidate your belief, you withdraw by reading aloud 10 deposits. Confidence isn't a mood, it's collateral. There's science tucked inside this simplicity. Your reticular activating system tunes itself to repeated cues. When you train it to notice deposits, it begins to highlight opportunities to make them. Your amygdala calms when presented with concrete, recent evidence that you can handle voltage. It's easier to breathe when your own hand wrote, held silence after saying no, felt heat, lived. In the prefrontal cortex, plans better when it reviews small wins rather than ruminating on hypotheticals. This isn't trickery, it's maintenance. An evening scene under warm kitchen light. You felt like the day slid through your fingers. The critic was ready with paragraphs. You opened your identity banknote instead. There they were, not grand but real. 9:17 Soma after sprint used a 10-line. 12:05 2-sentence ask moved meeting no apology drama. 3:33 micro switch in stand-up, voice lowered. 7:10 turned down the screen, landing sequence step 1. You read them out loud, feeling the vibration under your sternum. Your shoulders dropped, not triumph. Ground is better than triumph, it repeats. Listen for the farthest sound your ears can find. A car 2 streets away, a distant fan. Feel the texture under your fingertips, the ridge of a notebook, the smoothness of a mug. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. On the exhale, whisper your identity cue. I'm the kind of person who keeps tiny promises that scale. The words ride breath into bone where this work sticks. Continuity needs protection. You'll build a relapse recovery protocol, not because you plan to fall, but because you're human and you will, and knowing how to return turns slips into short chapters instead of trilogies. The protocol has 4 moves: reduce, review, re-enter, record. Reduce the ambition to a 2mm move. Review 1 deposit from your bank aloud. Re-enter with a 10-minute beachhead tied to a red thread. Record a line in the bank. relapse recovered at 2:20, opened doc, wrote 3 ugly lines. You've met loops like this in these pages. Now you stitch them into a single motion you can do in 3 minutes. This is how athletes return after a miss, and how you will return after a week that ate you. A small but true story. Holiday week crushed your routines, sugar and screens and strange beds. Monday arrived with the heaviness of wet denim. You did the protocol, reduce, put shoes on and step outside for 5 minutes. Review, read 10 bank lines from before the break. Re-enter, 10-minute beachhead with, right now the most useful thing is to open the deck and type 3 headlines. Record 2:12 re-entered. It wasn't cinematic. It was a click you could feel under your sternum, the sound of gears catching again. There's a tool to make backcasting and banking flow through days without gnashing, the signal-to-noise sweep. In 90 seconds each morning, you choose one signal, today's compass word or verb, and name 2 likely noise sources, scroll loops, particular anxieties, a person's tone. You run 1446 and write 1 sentence, signal, decide. Noise, ping, storms, perfectionism. Move, 1 breath boundary plus parking lot. The sweep sets you up to deposit where it matters and let noise collect in the lot rather than in your bloodstream. At night, you spend another 90 seconds to note whether you kept the signal lit. If yes, deposit with time. If no, write the smallest fix and backcast it to tomorrow's first tile. A day at a window desk with winter light. Signal, presence, noise, calendar crowding, inbox gravity, move, threshold ritual at each entrance. You wrote it on a sticky under your trackpad. 3 times that day, your hand hovered over email while your breath hovered in your throat. You ran 1 pursed lip exhale and returned to the red thread. That night you wrote, presence at 11:21:03:447, kept thread. The bank wasn't an abstract virtue. It was 3 timestamps and a real feeling in your ribs. Check your shoulders and the space behind your eyes. Soften both. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. See if you can hear the tiny click in your throat when you swallow. That click is an ordinary miracle, your body doing a chore without narration. Continuity feels like that when it settles in, chores with meaning, done without theater. We should talk about uncertainty because it will visit. It wears many coats, layoffs, illness, a pivot, an ending you didn't pick. The tool here is the 2-list tether, influence and witness. On paper, you draw a short line down the center. Left side, influence, verbs you can do in the next hour. Right side, witness, sensory facts and compassionate phrases that keep you grounded while you wait. You breathe 4-4-6, then do 1 from influence and 1 from witness. The pairing prevents helpless thrash and empty stoicism. Influence might be send the 2-line status, set an appointment, pack a lunch for tomorrow. Witness might be feel the mug's heat. The sky is gray and I can smell rain. Of course I'm scared, and still I'll do the next small thing. You tether to the present without surrendering the future. An afternoon in a too bright lobby, interview results somewhere in a server. Your stomach felt hollow, you drew the line on a receipt. Influence, text a thank you, block 20 minutes to outline plan B if it's a no. Witness, inhaled air is cool, exhaled is warm, the bench is hard and stable, people pass speaking a soft chorus of lives. You breathed, sent the text, scheduled the block, rubbed the edge of the receipt with your thumb until it softened. The answer arrived the next day. You didn't spend all your currency before it came. Continuity thrives on companionship with your future self. You'll sign a small contract called the Alliance, a 1-sentence promise and 1 standing appointment. The sentence starts with, I will be the kind of person who, and names a behavior, not a title. The appointment is a weekly 15-minute check-in where you backcast 3 tiles and review 10 deposits. Put it in your calendar like a meeting with a respected mentor. When the time comes, stand for the last minute and breathe, because posture codes memory. The alliance is not romantic. It is paperwork your nervous system respects. On a Sunday, you stood by a window where the light hit the dust just so. You whispered, "I will be the kind of person who breathes, asks, and chooses under pressure." You set Fridays at 4:30 as the appointment. The first time you skipped, you felt brittle. The second time, you ran it on a bus with your phone as the ledger. It still worked. The bank doesn't care where you deposit, only that you do. Feel the air against the top curve of your ear again. It's there whether you win or lose today. Let that steady you. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. On the exhale, choose 5 words for your next hour, your 5-word compass. Let them be a little different now. Patient, precise, warm, steady, forward. Say them once. Your mouth shapes them, your ribs answer. Leadership, even of yourself, demands something else, giving away credit and absorbing heat without swallowing your boundaries. That balance becomes easier when identity isn't a scarce resource. The bank feeds that. When a team win arrives, you can say, "They did this," because your ledger already says who you are. When a miss lands on your desk, you can say, "I'll own the repair," because your ledger says you know how. The arrogance that stings others comes from empty accounts. You'll keep yours funded with behavior, not branding. A story at twilight. A release failed. Slack flared. Old you would have looked for a shield or a scapegoat. Knew you ran breath and typed, "I'll own the timeline repair. Sarah's patch prevented data loss. Credit to her." Then you sent a boundary bridge up the chain. "I can deliver a rollback by 10. I won't commit to a full root cause tonight. You'll have a 5-line note at 9 tomorrow." You logged, credited Sarah 7:22, bridge 7:24, rollback 9:58. The night wasn't pleasant, but it didn't bruise your identity. You walked home under streetlights with a chest that felt like a room with windows open to cool air. You may worry that a bank and a backcast will turn your days into checklists, but you felt it already. Structure frees spontaneity. When the basics run on rails, you can improvise without derailing. The singer who hits the harmony without thinking sounds free because the breath is trained. Your breath is trained. Your protocols hum quietly. Now you can look up and see the bird crossing the window, the child's request for eye contact, the micro-joke that lightens a tense room. Aliveness is not the absence of structure. It's the presence of attention inside a dependable frame. Check your palms. Are they cool or warm? Rub them until heat blooms, then place one over your sternum, one over your belly. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Whisper your identity cue to bone. I'm the kind of person who keeps going kindly. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also a builder. The materials are minutes. Before we close, make one live deposit. Choose a tile you can place in the next 10 minutes that future you will thank you for. Breathe 446. Anchor, name the weather. Choose the smallest wise action. Do it now. Open the calendar and block Friday's appointment. Write your alliance sentence, or stand, walk 30 steps and set a 2:30 beachhead. When it's done, record the line with the time. Feel the click, small, physical, undeniable. That click is continuity speaking. One last story, quiet and unglamorous, which is to say true. You sat on a bench under plane trees, late afternoon, turning the edges of leaves to gold. The week had been messy, the kind that used to make you decide you were a mess. You opened your note. Deposits, small and stubborn, asked one outcome, ran Soma at 3:12, said no kindly, repaired by 6:05, wrote 3 lines when I wanted to scroll. You read them until your shoulders lowered of their own accord. You backcast a scene 6 months out, same bench, same gold, different steadiness, and asked, "What should I do now to earn that?" The answer was simple: stand, breathe, and call your mother. You stood, you breathed, you called. The conversation was ordinary. The residue was not. Legacy isn't what people say about you when you're gone. It's what their nervous systems learn to do because you were there. You'll forget this sometimes. You'll remember again. The remembering gets faster. The deposits accumulate. The future stops being a fantasy and starts being a dialogue. And in that dialogue, you will hear the most relieving sentence: you can trust yourself. Not because you never wobble, but because you know how to return, to repair, to reset, to ask, to act, to rest, to keep placing stones in a line that looks, from altitude, like grace. As you close, let your eyes soften until the room widens. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Feel the chair hold you and the floor hold the chair and the earth hold the floor. Inside that stack is a person who knows how to keep going. Quiet, steady, kind. The weather will change. You remain the sky. The baton is in your hand. The music continues. Sunrise brushes the room with a thin wash of gold. Today isn't about adding one more trick. It's about weaving the ones you have into a single, living rhythm you can walk with for years. Think of it as a field day for your nervous system, a quiet proving ground where you practice a full from trigger to traction arc. The name for that arc is the Clarity Cascade. It sounds grand, it feels simple in your hands. The cascade has 5 tiers you already know: reset, reframe, focus, act, restore. Each tier is made of tools you've drilled. You'll run them like a choreography until your body recognizes the music and moves, even when the room gets loud. Begin with reset. Before the phone blinks, before the day tugs, you stand at a doorframe and touch wood anchor. Your breath finds the 4-4-6. In through your nose for 4, hold for 4 like you're balancing a cup, out for 6 like you're fogging a window, 3 rounds. On the tail of the 3rd exhale you say, here, and the floor under your feet becomes more than a concept. You run the 90-second weather rule for whatever your mind has already picked up, a small dread, a leftover ache. 3 tracks: sensation, impulse, storyline. You label gently: buzz behind the eyes, urge to scroll, thought that I'm late. You count to 90 like you're steeping tea. Nothing to fix yet, just weather to watch. Now reframe. You open your story editing room with, "I'm having the thought that," and walk the 3 perspective reframe: protective, neutral, growth. "I'm having the thought that I'm behind" becomes "I care about this." Today is an ordinary start. If I ask for the one outcome and place a beachhead, the day can turn. Your RAS bookmark clicks in. "I'm the kind of person who breathes, names, and chooses." You whisper it as breath leaves. The STOP switch connects your reset to your language. See the surge, take a breath, observe the tracks, proceed with a smallest wise action. The compassion is not a garnish. It's fuel that burns clean. Focus arrives as a posture, not willpower. You set a 10-minute beachhead and tie a red thread question to it. Right now, the most useful thing is draft 3 messy bullets. You create a temptation parking lot where ideas can land without hijacking the session. You arm yourself with the one-breath boundary: "Not now, I'm with this," spoken on a 6-count exhale if the mind trots toward tabs. Your eyes widen their peripheral field by 2 degrees. Your shoulders fall a coin's width. You feel the texture of paper under your palm or the cool lip of a mug. The world answers back with detail. Detail is safety. Safety is focus's quiet partner. Act is where voltage rises. You engage the 2-minute courage window when your pulse hops. Timer 1446, count by 7s, perform the first inch. The risk titration ladder keeps you from leaping off cliffs. You climb rungs you designed yesterday. Good enough gates guard the door against the thief named perfect. Your two-sentence ask carries clean requests across the room. I'd like to take the pilot. If that works, I'll send the plan by Friday. When boundaries are needed, you walk the bridge, name reality, state the limit, offer the next step, then let silence do its work. You keep your tone firm and warm because you mapped values to verbs before you spoke. Excellence, simplify, rehearse, review. Kindness, pause, soften, check-in. Clarity, ask, summarize, decide. Values are verbs, verbs are handholds. Restore is where you protect the instrument. You ride 90-minute waves and run the 7-minute ultradian reset before the crash. Sip, oxygen, move, attend. Soma is not a spa. It's a socket your day plugs into. Your workday shutdown turns a blur into a landing. One line for tomorrow, 446, phone in bowl, doorframe touch. When you stumble, and you will, you trigger after-action alchemy, facts, forces, fixes, then Horizon 1 repair by 5, Horizon 2 iteration next time, Horizon 3 identity sentence to bone. If the morning went sideways, the one-day salvage plan trims, resets, and wins once before dinner. You log deposits in your identity bank because confidence is collateral, not a mood. You backcast Friday from the person you're becoming and lay today's tile now. Pause here, notice the air skimming your forearms, the almost imperceptible cool along your inner wrist. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. The light on the nearest surface has texture, grain in wood, matte paint, a gloss line on ceramic. Let your gaze rest there, a heartbeat. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are also a craftsperson, and craft is repetition without contempt. The cascade isn't only for quiet mornings. You'll practice it in a scene that used to own you. The meeting calendar stacked itself into a wall. At 10:00, your concept faces a room that favors volume over patience. Reset, 3-4-4-6 breaths at the doorway, thumb to wrist, anchor, 90 seconds of weather, labeled, heat in the chest, urge to defend, story about being dismissed. Reframe, I'm having the thought that I need to prove, then protective neutral growth, RAS bookmark, I ask one outcome before I speak. Focus, beachhead for the first 5 minutes of the room, your red thread reads, right now the most useful thing is to lead with outcome and ask the constraint. One breath boundary fences off the urge to over-explain. Act, 2-sentence ask, boundary bridge when scope creeps. Good enough gate set to 5 slides, 1 risk, 1 mitigation. Restore Soma at 40 past the hour, water, breath, doorway stretch. Attend line, right now recovery is the work. Evidence jar, 10:07 asked outcome 10:11 bridge held 10:42 Soma. Your attention will wander. Your critic will try to repurpose old scripts. You'll run C2C, transmute, catch, convert, commit without ceremony. Your blowing it becomes, breathe low, ask one question, then you ask it now. If you overstep, the IFL line cleans the channel. I wanted to help, I interrupted. Next time I'll jot the thought and wait. Compassionate constraint catches the flinch. Of course I feel heat, and still I'll keep my shoulders low and my ask clean. This is not a self-esteem exercise. It's mechanical first, merciful as a result. Midday, you protect the continuity with a signal-to-noise sweep. Signal, decide. Noise, slack pings, perfection itch. Move, 1 breath boundary plus parking lot. You schedule 1 ultradian reset as if with a client. You move, you drink, you breathe, you attend. You finish the hour slightly fuller than you started. That slight fullness is grace earned by method. By afternoon, energy thins. Your brain begs for the smooth dopamine of avoidance. You answer with the focus sanctuary, feet flat, table touch, 1-4-4-6, right red thread, set 10 minutes, make 1 parking lot, whisper not now, I'm with this. When anxiety whistles, you count by threes until the 2-minute timer says move. The red thread pulls you through. When presence with a human is the work, you run an agreement reset. Assumptions, values, verbs. I assume you'll answer pings. I'm protecting momentum. I'll batch requests. I assume after dinner availability. I'm protecting rest. I'll post office hours. 2 sentences each, breath under them. Evening brings thresholds. The landing sequence dims the lights in your biology. Lamp low, 1 sentence for tomorrow's bold yes. 3, 4, 4, 6 breaths with a longer hold on the last. Phone's color temperature warm, the phrase, off duty, the night can carry me. If your mind flicks on at 3 a.m., you pass a microsoma in the dark. Sip, 1 breath, roll ankles, attend. Even this is part of rest. Another story, this one at a kitchen sink where soap smells like lemons and the day's residue warms the air. You and someone you love circle the old argument. Reset, knife down, sidestep, 446, reframe. I'm having the thought that I have to win this or lose us. Turned into protective neutral growth and a 5-word compass. Calm, clear, kind, firm, forward. Focus, red thread. Right now, the most useful thing is to ask the stuck point. Act, boundary bridge once, silence held like a room you trust. Restore, repair loop, own name, ask, commit if voices flared. Identity bank deposit, held bridge 7, 11, repair 723, felt heat, lived. None of this is theater. It's how dignity repeats inside a life with dishes and deadlines. Check your mouth, let the tongue drop, jaw soften. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 6. Hear the smallest sound, the fridge hum, a distant car, the cloth whisper of your sleeve. Let the sound be proof that the world is bigger than the wave inside you. Right-sized waves can be surfed. Sometimes the day breaks. A layoff, a diagnosis, a door not just closing but locked. Your cascade becomes gentler and even more precise. Reset stays first. Sometimes it's the only tier you can run. 2-list tether follows, influence and witness on a torn envelope. Influence, text a human, schedule a call, drink water, file a form. Witness, the chair is solid, breath is warm out, cool in. Of course I'm scared, and still I'll do the next small thing. The one-day salvage plan trims life to rails you can hold. Keep 2, reset once, win 1. You lean into your alliance. I will be the kind of person who keeps going kindly. And you keep your Friday 4:30 appointment with future you to backcast 3 tiles and read 10 deposits. The future may be fog, but your hands know the shape of the next stone. Make the cascade your own. Rename tiers, remix tools. Some days you'll start at focus, other days you'll sprint to restore. Continuity is not rigidity. The thread through all of it is the sentence you've been practicing until it feels carved into bone. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The awareness breathes, names, and chooses. The emotion passes like weather, sometimes violent, sometimes a mist. Both belong, only one drives. Before we close, give the cascade a live minute. Reset, 3, 4, 4, 6 breaths, thumb to wrist anchor, name 1 line of weather. Reframe, I'm having the thought that. Run protective neutral growth, whisper your RAS bookmark. Focus, write a red thread for the next 10 minutes. Act, set a 2-minute timer, count by threes, begin the first inch. Restore, schedule a 7-minute soma slot this afternoon and a workday shutdown line for evening. Now look around. The light is what it is. The room holds you. You feel your ribs like a bellows, moving air that has traveled a long way to get here. Your future is not a movie you watch. It is a choreography your body knows well enough to dance when the song starts, even if the floor is crowded. You wanted calm and got capacity. You wanted control and got clarity. You wanted to never feel fear again and got something better. A reliable way to walk through fear with your breath, your words, and your hands all telling the same truth. The truth is simple. You can trust yourself, not because the world will soften, but because you have. Softness here is not collapse. It's precision without tension, kindness without capitulation, strength without armor. You carry a sanctuary room inside you now, the one with open windows, a chair by the light, and a table where you place one clean sentence at a time. When the wind rises, you don't barricade. You breathe. You widen. You choose. You step. A last story, small as a seed. Late grey, a bus, faces lit by the blue of other people's screens. A thought knocks, you're behind again. You touch the coin you use as your comeback cue, 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. I'm having the thought, protective, neutral, growth, red thread. Right now the most useful thing is to write 3 lines to future me about what mattered today. You type, said no kindly, asked 1 outcome, walked outside at 3:10. Evidence bank 3 deposits. You press send to yourself, the bus rocks, the city moves. Inside something steadies, not a statue, a living cascade. The weather will change, you remain the sky. The baton is in your hand, the music continues. And when it swells, you know how to count in, how to hold silence, how to bring the cellos in low and the horns in late, how to end with your palm floating in the air for one last long breath. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Your life on purpose.